The podcast you are about to listen to contains at least one of the following: strong language, disturbing topics, abusive opinions, generally things that aren't appropriate for little kids or overly sensitive people. So, if any of that stuff's going to get your nose out of joint, this is your chance to turn it off.
Feelings don't matter, so brace yourself tight. He'll lay it down heavy, he'll light up the night. No sugar-coated tales, just cold hard facts. In the realm of opinions, there's no turning back. Listen close or just walk away. But Aaron had to say it, come what may. Here comes Aaron with the truth untold. No holding back, watch the truth unfold. On the podcast, airways feel the righteous sting. You either take it in or let the silence ring.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of I Had to Say It. What follows is the conversation I had with guest George Fontes of the World Ablaze podcast. Now, George is a really good guy. I've talked him up a bit this week, and previously he had me on his show, and we had a good talk. He came to be on my show. We had another good talk. I actually am really enjoying these guest episodes, getting back into the swing and doing them. I tried to do it more regularly when I first started the show. It was a lot easier when I actually had time because I was laid off. But now that I'm back to work, it's a little more hectic. But I love having people on the show. I love talking to people. I love talking to people I've never talked to before. So if you're a listener that's never actually interacted with me in person, you'd like to come on the show and talk, hit me up. Let me know. Send me a message. Reach out to me through the website. Reach out to me through the socials. Email me at ihadtosayitpodcast@gmail.com. Yeah, anyway, so what follows is the conversation between myself and George, and I really hope you guys enjoy listening to it as much as we enjoyed having it. And I can say with certainty George is going to be a guest on the show again. This is good conversation, and we're losing it.
We lost a few things there, but we started off, I think, pretty great, and so we'll just keep this going. I want to get to something later on, but well, shoot, I'll just bring it up. How was it over there in Chicago with this Hands Off 2025 protest? Did you see any of it? Were you in that area? Or did you get any reports?
I did not. I made a point of staying home. I actually live out in the suburbs deliberately so. um,
Yeah.
I worked downtown Chicago for years. I used to love the city. I don't anymore. It always had its rough spots and its less than desirable areas. Just being me, I was always perfectly comfortable going into those rough spots and those less desirable
Yeah.
areas. I mean, I have friends that were from really rough neighborhoods. I had employees that lived in rough neighborhoods when they worked for me, and I had no problem. Oh, you need to ride home? Yeah, sure. You missed your train? Yeah, get in the car. Let's go. Like, well, chef, you know where I live? Yeah, I know where you live. I don't care. I mean, and it's just, part of it's just being me. Part of it's, I don't know. I don't. I don't like saying it because it makes me feel like I'm just trying to be like, oh, I'm a hard ass. But no, it's not that I'm a hard ass. It's just people don't give me shit when I go to rough neighborhoods. Something about me just says, all right, this guy's okay. We're not going to fuck.
Yeah.
And there's like, the subtle, when people talk about this kind of stuff, like I said, half of the time, I don't like talking about this stuff myself because I feel like I'm being full of shit. But it's not that I'm being full of shit, but it sounds like I'm being full of shit. We're like, oh, well, this guy thinks he's a tough ass. And I'm like, no, it's just things I've noticed in society, in culture, in the way people interact with each other. Some people give off that, like, okay, we're just going to leave them alone vibe, for lack of a better word.
I think what it is, from speaking with you before, a few times, I think you were around it, so you just know how to act. You act as if, right? So it's not like something that you're going out of your way to try to fit into. It's just that's who you are. And people see that. They pick up on it.
Yeah.
So that's why you don't
Goes a
I think
long
that's why you
way.
don't feel uncomfortable. You're just like, it's just what I have to do. I have to go here. I have to
I'm
do what I
here.
got to do.
Broke. I'm broke. What do we got? No problems.
Right. Exactly.
But like a couple of my vendors, particularly when I was working in the city, a couple of my vendors were in really not neighborhoods where you went unless you had a reason to be there. Like, you ever watch Shameless?
Oh man, a few times. I don't recall a lot of it though.
Yeah, well, it's I was gonna say just this kind of ties in. But that particular neighborhood, the back of the yards in Chicago, it's called the back of the yards because it used to be the back of the train yards where all the like the meat processing plants and stuff are. Working class, very rough neighborhood. Definitely was you didn't go there unless you were either from there or had a reason to be there for a very long time. And it was even kind of a theme in the show for a while where there was gentrification going on and all these like yuppies were moving in and buying up all these cheap ass houses because it's house like old row houses that were built in the 30s that for a very long time because it was a rough ass neighborhood with a high crime rate, a lot of unemployment, a lot of people losing their jobs, losing everything, where you could get a 3 bedroom, 4 bedroom house for $150,000 because it was a shit neighborhood with a tiny little lot and the house was dilapidated because the previous owner went broke. And so there was a lot of gentrification going on in that neighborhood, and the locals hated it, which again was thematic on the show for like a whole season. They were like, the local bar had a whole thing where they're like, they had a sign like only 3 hipsters allowed in at a time because all the hipsters were showing up ruining their bar.
That's funny.
And and that's where my meat place was, and that's where my vegetable distributor was. And if I had to do a will call and go do a pickup, then people be like, well, where you go? I'm gonna go pick up, cases of burgers because we got shorted and we need this product, or I got to go get the fillets because the fillets weren't on the truck, so I got to go to the packing place, or I forgot to order the fillets because nobody told me we were out, and I have to pick them up at 5 in the morning on my way in.
Yeah.
And those were neighborhoods where like you saw somebody on the side of the road trying to flag you down, you really thought twice about stopping to make sure they were okay because you might be getting carjacked. and now me, I'd slow down and roll down the window. You all right?
Yeah.
And
Got to check in with people.
I didn't have a car that was worth stealing anyway. So and if particularly there were things you could look for, like if it was a younger, and people go, oh, that's misogynistic. No, it's the truth. If it was like a younger woman, particularly if she was like, I don't want to say dressed provocatively, but not dressed appropriately for the like 5 a.m. on the side of the road in the fucking hood, like then you start getting a little leery because that's somebody that's trying to get you to put your guard down because like they're preying on the whole, well, it's stopping to help the young girl that's in skimpy outfit at 5 in the morning. Looks like she just got offered her shift as a dancer. Then you really question whether you should stop and help them.
Yeah, that's either
big roughneck with work boots and freaking overalls on. Yeah, I'm not going to think twice about stopping and go, well, what you need, bro? You got a gas? Do your car not want to start? What's up?
That's definitely a setup. It's either a setup or, honestly, a streetwalker. I mean, that's just what it is.
Oh yeah, I got propositioned more than once too. So
I'm sure.
Hey, baby, you looking for a good time? Depends. You got fillets for under $7 a pound?
Under $7.
Yep.
Hey, man, it's oldest industry in the world, right? That's what they say.
I mean, you never know. They might have something to negotiate with. I mean, barter is legit.
Quite possibly.
Like, baby, I got the best tenderloins in Chicago. All right, let's talk.
Well, hell, man, what's your let's catch up. What's your thoughts on what's been happening since we last talked? I mean, what was it, at least a month or so ago?
About a month. Honestly, there's days where I have trouble recollecting my thoughts about what happened on Thursday. So,
shit, everything's moving so fast, Aaron. These days, it's like it's hard to keep up with the bullshit. To be quite honest,
all gas, no brake.
Absolutely.
My biggest thing, and this has been an ongoing theme for me at least for years, is like just the utter fucking hypocrisy of some of these career parasite people that are like personally. And I've been saying this a lot recently. It keeps coming out of my mouth, but it just feels so right. Is I don't understand all these dummies that are getting bent out of shape at like Elon and his little team of autistic wizards who are finding just literally billions of dollars of fraud and waste, and they're mad at him. They're not pissed off that we've been getting screwed for decades. They're mad that he came out and exposed it because partly because of who put him in the place. I mean, I honestly believe that, the whole TDS, Trump derangement syndrome thing is real. People will literally be mad at things that are in their best interest because of who they're coming from. I don't get that at all. That befuddles me. But being mad at Elon and his team of super autists that are out here finding all this shit, and they're not even doing anything directly. They're just it's just audits. And these people are like, Elon, get your hands off my money. Well, first off, all he did was expose. He didn't take the money. He didn't put the cuts in place. He offered advice. He said, here's the data. Here's what the numbers show. Do with it what you will. And the administration acts on it. Why are you burning a Tesla because of that? Why are you firebombing charging stations? I mean, I the whole situation frustrates me.
None of it makes sense.
No, it really doesn't.
How do you feel you're making a statement and you're protesting by destroying someone else's property?
Yeah,
Well,
and
funny thing, the whole Tesla issue for me is, before Elon kind of switched sides, I'm not even sure he's a full conservative Republican either. I
he's
mean,
really not. That's the thing.
exactly. He was the Democrat liberal leftist hero for many. Silicon Valley, whole deal, owned PayPal at one point, sold that, got into Tesla. My only gripe with him is he claims he invented these things when he didn't. He literally bought his way in, to be quite honest. He did. He became partners in these companies and then eventually pushed the owners or the originators out and took them over. And that is true. But you can't say that he's not at this point trying to look out for the best interests of the country. I'm not sure if it's for selfish reasons to help open up doorways for his own companies, for like SpaceX and whatnot. So there is that other side to be argued, but you're completely correct. I mean, he's doing the job that he was appointed to do. He's looking into things, finding corruption, finding waste, and saying, Mr. President, here's what I found. He's not literally laying people off. He's been given a directive and an order to do his job, and that's what he's doing. And people are mad. Now, why are they mad? Because it's so sudden. I mean, this has been going on, like Aaron, for so long, unchecked. And suddenly it's like they're dropping a hammer. They don't have time to adjust. They don't have time to say, oh fuck, this is happening. I got to figure out my next move. They wake up the next morning and their department's cut. Their job is gone. But these same people who are complaining are the same people who didn't give a damn about so many people who lost their businesses during the COVID shutdowns.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Whatsoever.
No, it's very real. And as one of the people who lost their job during the COVID shutdown, my sympathy is extremely tempered. I mean, I know it comes off a little callous, but at the end of the day, I don't care. You knew you were in a job where you were kind of taking advantage of the situation. I refuse to say, I mean, I know some of these people think they were doing something for a good cause, but I refuse to believe anybody that gets into a bureaucratic position where they know that their job is a lot of redundancy, where they're working, a couple hours a day tops. The people who were complaining that they had to start going back to the office, that my sympathy is extremely tempered for those people, because it's like, you had to know in the real world of people who are out there busting their asses to be taxed to provide your paycheck. That's not how the world works. Yes, you got lucky. Yes, you knew the right people. You were born with the right last name. You had the right connections to get there. You had to know that if people found out about that, there was going to be blowback. I mean,
Yeah, I agree with that point. I mean, a lot of these people, they had to know. They had to know at some point, like, this wasn't going to go on forever. They assumed it would,
yeah,
because it was allowed to for so long. But this isn't new. I mean, as I think last time we kind of brought it up slightly, but this did happen under the Clinton administration as well. There were, what did he cut, like 300,000 jobs or whatnot, something like that.
I want to say it was actually a little more than that. I want to say it was
Oh,
close.
was it?
I think it was closer to 4. It was
Yeah,
like
I mean,
300 and like 70 or 380, something like. I mean, it was like almost 400,000 jobs. Like within a couple of weeks of him going in the front door, he was
right.
and
And now we're looking at everyone up in arms over Trump doing this, not even as large of a scale whatsoever, but just like you said, because he is, as everyone says, orange man bad. Like, everyone just hates him just for having that name Trump and who he is. Suddenly, it's the worst thing in the world. And it is bad for those who got laid off. I get it. I do. I've been there. You have to readjust and move forward. But we can't continue to keep this unchecked waste going day after day after day. I mean, we can't keep up with our deficit. We're in a position where we have to refinance it at this point. And
Yep.
if we're not making these cuts and readjusting the market, we're not going to be able to get the rates low enough to make it make sense for the American people. We're just going to further dig our hole. So, what is the right answer here? What is the right answer? And
Yeah.
then, unfortunately, the opposition or the people that criticize have no answer.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing too. Like, if everybody who's pointing to like, oh well, the jobs report says that this is horrible, and and everything was so great the last 4 years, and it's like they literally brought forth the information, and it was even during the Biden administration where it's like, well, yeah, all the new jobs created in the last month were all government sector jobs. Those are not a net positive economically. They are a net drain because government sector jobs do not pay into the tax pool. They do not because they're paid for with taxes. It's tax money,
True.
so
Yeah.
it's actually a net drain on the economy because if you add, $110,000 or 110,000 jobs, which will later be revised down to 75,000 jobs because that happened literally every month for 4 straight years. But when you're adding all these artificially inflated jobs that are paid for via tax dollars, you're just increasing the deficit further while inflating the numbers so you can say, look at how good our jobs report is. And they're not doing that anymore. They're saying, look, this is the cold hard truth. If we don't change course, this place is going to fold. And
Yes.
I want that. And I mean, like I said, it's unsustainable. Any business in the world that behaved the way our government does would have shuttered years ago.
Oh, absolutely. If this was a business, we would have been done. We would have been done. I mean, who gets that amount of leniency and leeway and an extension of debt over and over? Any other organization or bank would step in and say, "Look, we got to have a talk." They're going to look at your operation. They're going to make you
You need to cut some
reassess
back.
things,
The
liquidate assets, and they're just going to take control of your finances until you either course correct or you are done. But our government, for God, going even during the Bush era, to be quite honest, I mean, it's been going unchecked and allowed to be doing what it has been doing for so long.
yeah, oh yeah, that the last time we had a balanced budget was Clinton.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
we've been deficit spending for 30 years. It's
absolutely.
ridiculous.
Right.
And that's the other thing that particularly in the like I don't necessarily like the whole tariff thing that's going on right now, which like the hands off and all this other protest. I mean, you get plenty of people are, oh, the tariffs are going to ruin us. I'm, I'm of a mixed bag on the whole tariff approach. I mean, if they were going to be using the tariff system to do like they originally said and cut the income tax, I would be less adverse to it. I mean, it is another thing that's going to have to be paid. It's just the way it works. But the thing that really kills me about it, and this is going to actually tie into multiple things, is the reaction from you've got all the big usual yammering heads on the left that are coming out and oh, Trump's trying to destroy America with these tariffs and it's going to cost American citizens this much more per year for everything now. And you got like the Schumers and the Pelosi's and Cory Booker and Jasmine Crockett and everybody else who all of a sudden is an expert on fiscal policy, despite the fact that they all and my favorite Liz Warren. I love Pocahontas. She's
Okay.
yeah. I actually for a while the guys in Whiskey Hell would like tag me every time she made a post just so I could go talk shit to her.
Oh,
Because
that's great.
we know you love doing this. Here you go. She did
Yeah.
another one in case you missed it. Now I've done it so much she literally I don't follow her, but she pops up in my X algorithm constantly because of how many times I've like gone onto her posts and just called her names and told her she should retire. Um, but the thing that kills me about this stuff is we have video, we have the recordings of these exact same people arguing for all the same stuff they're calling the destruction of America now. We've got, Schumer talking about how there's all kinds of Social Security fraud and Medicaid fraud and needs to be streamlined and reassessed. Pelosi talking about how we need to reassess the Social Security system because it's insolvent because they keep, borrowing against it and using it for things it's not intended for.
Yeah, their
Because,
personal piggy bank, basically.
yeah, and all of this stuff happened where Congress was never supposed to touch that money. They were supposed to leave it the fuck alone.
It was supposed to be an investment for the people.
Yeah, and they didn't do it. And now all of a sudden it's an emergency. And when somebody points out that it's become a Ponzi scheme, literally by definition, the only reason they can continue to pay out the people who they owe money is because more new people keep paying into it. That is the definition of a Ponzi scheme. And then every single one of these politicians, oh, well, how dare Elon say it's a Ponzi scheme? Social Security is a right. We paid into it. The fact that people are paying into it does not mean it's not a Ponzi scheme. The fact that you guys started taking that money and doing other shit with it instead of using it what it was intended for made it a Ponzi scheme. So
absolutely, yeah. And the thing with the tariffs, I think I'm with you. I see what's trying to be done with it. It is a tactic to be used. Because if you apply enough pressure with a tariff, hopefully the people you're putting that tariff on, it eventually puts enough pressure to where it's like, okay, we're either going to lower ours or remove them, and I get it. But at the same time, what is amazing to me is you have the opposition, the left, Democrats, whatever name they want to use to represent themselves these days. Because I don't really think they're true Democrats anymore.
Oh no, they're really not.
No, but you have on video. I have clips somewhere. I actually saved it. I was going to use it for one of my shows coming up, where you have video of Obama and Pelosi both talking about how we have to administer and apply tariffs, especially to China because of our trade relationship, even way back then with China, which was out of hand, out of control, and unchecked. And fast forward, we have someone who's literally, in Trump, who's like, you know what? It's time. We need to do this. And all of a sudden, everybody's opposed because it's the worst thing in the world. The reason it's bad now is because we never corrected it. And I get it. We don't have enough time to correct. The market's not going to adjust that quickly, right? We're not going to magically overnight have manufacturing in the USA.
It's going to be the facilities don't exist anymore. The equipment's not there. They're not
right.
able to say, hey, we're going to open a factory tomorrow.
But we gave it away. We gave it away. And it wasn't just, it was both Republicans and Democrats that gave it away. We have to admit that for the sake of more profit. And, big companies, huge corporations, they saw this opportunity. I mean, look, who wouldn't do this? They're not thinking about how it's going to affect the country and where they're founded or where they live. They're thinking about how much can I add to that bottom line? How much more profit can I make for my investors? And so that's why the outsourcing began. When you don't have to pay an auto worker $25 an hour and you can go ahead and build your factory in Mexico or, outsource it to India or wherever it is, they're going to do that. Same thing that happened to the garment industry. We had a ton of clothing that used to be made in the USA. Now it's all Indonesia, India, Singapore. All of that stuff got offshored a long time ago.
Any of those places where it's like for just $5 a day.
Absolutely. Yeah, literally. Literally. And so the truth of the matter is I agree with the tariffs. I just think it took way too long to do it, to adjust. They're supposed to be reciprocal. The problem I'm seeing with Trump, though, is he's not really holding the line. He says they're supposed to be reciprocal, but they're not really. And I can't understand where he's come up with some of these numbers. Like, we have tariffs that are 50% on certain American goods in some countries, others where it's like 75 to 100% tariff. And he's not applying it evenly, but he is applying a minimum 10%, which is fine. And I don't have a problem with that. It's just, as I said earlier, it's just bringing down the hammer, right? People just don't know how to react. They're like, fuck, what's going on? And the markets, for example, they're complaining about it, the Dow coming down, losing 1,500 points, whatever it is. But if you look at the history of what's happened, it's literally back down to where it was, I believe, last August or September.
Yeah, so it's really not this huge dip they're trying to sell.
No, it's not. But it's still concerning. And all it is a reaction. And it's exactly what happened during the Great Depression. Like, people were saying, well, the tariffs are what caused the depression. No, it didn't. Tariffs were applied later to try to protect American markets and American businesses. It was ill-timed, though, because while we were trying to go through a financial recovery, these tariffs did not allow America to enter the global market appropriately to make the adjustments to our economy. But the depression was caused by a market crash, which scared everybody who went to the banks, took their money out of the banks became insolvent, and then that's what happened and how it spiraled out of control. It wasn't the tariffs that caused it. The
It was a
tariffs didn't help at the time.
storm of
Yeah, the tariffs
bad.
didn't help at the time because when they were initiated was either argued too late, or shouldn't have been applied at all at that time, but they didn't help at that time of economic recovery. It doesn't mean tariffs were bad in general. Here we are now, and we're trying to course correct as a country. And I'm tired of people making the argument like, look, Trump didn't put any tariffs on North Korea or Russia. Well, we've already have fucking sanctions, people.
Yeah,
And
that's
the
the other
truth
thing.
is, though,
I don't get it. Like, there's tariffs and then there's sanctions. Guess which one is
yes,
worse to have on your country? You
yeah,
know?
exactly, sanctions, absolutely. But we can't also ignore that we still buy gas from Russia, you know? So we as Americans, as a country, and not just us, man, let's talk about UK, Europe in general. I'm not going to stay stuck on this Ukraine situation because, you know, there's a lot to go on, talk about there. But for example, what's going on in Ukraine, everyone's like, what do we do to affect Russia? Well, economically, it probably makes the most sense because their economy is kind of in the toilet, and you could argue it's a wartime economy. So, what happened in the beginning? Oh, we're going to put sanctions on Russia. Nobody's going to buy natural gas and resources from Russia. They held the line on that for maybe a month, and they all fucking went back to buying it from Russia.
Yeah, they
Like,
said,
like who are you gonna point the fingers at?
you know, it got cold. We needed our natural gas. So,
It
and
made no sense, right?
yeah,
So the world wants to blame Trump, but yet they don't want to look at their own actions and their own alleged solutions to these issues because they care more about likes, clicks, and votes. They're looking for approval ratings rather than really looking at what needs to be done for not just our country but every country in the world right now.
yeah, and I mean, oh, this could get real soapboxy. The thing that
Let's
kills me
go.
about most of these European countries that are all of a sudden, orange man bad. We can't believe America's letting this happen. We can't believe they're letting this get away from you. And meanwhile, America, the reason they can have their socialist ideals that they love so much is because America provides for their defense budget. The vast majority of these countries do not provide any significant numbers to their own defense. Do they have some sort of, token self-defense force? Yes, most of them do. There's a few that are literally completely dependent upon the UN for their own defense, and the
Yes.
UN is completely dependent upon us. So every time they start, I can't believe you guys don't have socialized healthcare. Yeah, well, I can't believe you guys don't have an aircraft carrier. It's
True.
realistically, that's just kind of the way these things work. And it's like, yeah, your country's surrounded on three sides by water, and you don't have a navy. You got a fishing trowel. It's not.
Doesn't make sense, right?
You can have socialized medicine. You don't have, and I mean, I think our bloated defense budget is. That's a whole nother area where I don't like to talk about it too much because I'm afraid the MIC will come after me. I'm just kidding. I'm not that important. But I mean, I love the fact that we have like the most advanced weaponry in the world because I live here and I know that that's on our side, at least theoretically. And I don't want to see like the military industrial complex completely gutted and destroyed. But on the other side of that, I don't like the fact that there's so much waste, fraud, and abuse that gets funneled into that because again, the rest of I understand that, like, even if you want to go into the whole, like, oh, corporations are greedy and they just want to take everything and get their hands on. If these other countries on the planet were having to pay into the same R&D budgets and the same making purchases and all this other stuff, we wouldn't be having to shell out as much domestically because a huge portion of our defense budget isn't going to defend us. It's fulfilling obligations that we shouldn't be held to, in my opinion. And more so, it's carrying the load for people who aren't fulfilling their obligations. I'm, and this pisses some people off, but again, I don't care. I'm staunchly supporting of us like leaving the UN. I've been anti-UN since like the 90s because for exactly that reason. I was like, I don't see that I mean, we're doing the lion's share of all of this shit for people who want to badmouth us on a regular basis. It'd be different if they were like, hey, you know what? Thanks for keeping those F-14s in our country to, scare off the dirty commie USSR. And I mean, like I'm old. That's
Well,
that
you
was
know,
relevant once upon a time. But even then they're like, you know what? You're warmongering assholes and we hate you. You can
Yeah,
hate us because we're warmongering assholes and we keep you safe.
the whole thing. Your take. I like your take. I because it's really it's there's a lot of truth to it. And the U.S. does carry NATO. I mean, three-quarters of the entire budget is funded by the United States. At the time, it absolutely made sense, right? Coming out of World War II, with everything going on, how are we going to protect our smaller allies? Like we need to look out for each other, and it was a good way to connect with our European allies to maintain that open communication when it came to intelligence and other surveillance matters and whatnot, so that we had that open channel of communication and we're able to react and understand what's going on. I mean, now the U.S. has outgrown it so much because we have our own internal abilities and capabilities in terms of how we monitor other nations, our own internal departments that are able to, I mean, we could say spy or keep an eye on things. But
Monitor.
we still need that open communication. The reality of what you said is also true, that there are a lot of smaller nations that literally, like, I get it. Yeah, you're right. Like, this small country doesn't have a navy, but they also don't have a big enough population or GDP to even support a military. So they might, let's say, like, have like a national guard, for example, right? Or a coast guard to maybe have a few boats to or ships to monitor like their coastline, but they're not big enough to have an actual in-place military. So I don't mind being the USA big brother, so to speak, that is looking out for our ally. What I do mind is our allies suddenly saying we're not doing enough and we're bad for putting our foot down and saying, look, we're going to reel in some of the money that we're given over these, to these nearly 200 countries and territories every single fucking year. And now everybody hates us. And it's not like we're necessarily stepping away entirely. We're like, look, we got to rein it in. We have we have an economic issue. We're looking at trillions of dollars in debt that we got to get under control, and everybody's hating us for making those decisions. And I got to say, throughout all these years, what has stopped your country from actually, to your point, building some kind of a military, investing in your own country, instead of literally living off the economic funding of the United States to bolster your economy? What have you done? And, if we're talking about people overseas, let's talk about other media people. Like, there's this lady, I don't know if you know who she is. She has this podcast called The Troll. Her name is Marina Purkis. She's out in the UK. And I started following her just for the sake to just, I like to get a pulse on what people think. And what amazes me is these people from the UK in almost all media and her supporters, for example, all they do is bash the US. Their entire shtick is, Trump bad, US bad. And I have to respond to her sometimes. I'm like, don't you have your own country to fucking worry about? Like you have an unchecked rise in, you know, in um Islamic immigrants coming in that are literally getting elected into positions that are starting to change your laws and your communities that have nothing to do with the indigenous people of Great Britain. And you could say, people can say all they want. Yeah, they're white, but they were the indigenous people of that land. Okay. They have a long-standing history and they're letting it just slip away from them. They're letting it slip away from them. She doesn't want to talk about those things. None of the people in the UK do. All they want to say is it's our fault
if you bring it up.
Yeah, and all they want to do lately is say how it's the U.S.'s fault for what's going on between Russia and Ukraine. Now look at what's going on. Russia said, "Hey, we want peace. We want peace." We all knew Putin wasn't gonna. He doesn't want fucking peace. He wants that land. He wants to bring back the old USSR. As you said earlier, that's exactly what he wants to do. And what happened last night or yesterday? He just started shooting bombs and missiles off into Ukraine out of nowhere. Look, he is who he is. And so, like, she made this comment about, oh, it's Trump's fault, something to that nature. And I'm like, this is fucking stupid. What has stopped the UK and Europe from themselves stopping Russia? Like, everyone's pandering and making all these stupid comments, but what have you done? Are you literally waiting on the US to step in and do it for you? I mean, that's your backyard. That is your fucking backyard.
That's the thing. We got a big, beautiful ocean between us and them.
We do.
It's you guys should be more concerned about it than we should. And
yeah, man.
we have the resources. We have all this all the stuff.
I
And
believe if shit hits the
I
fan,
get that
Aaron,
argument,
yeah,
but that also means they had time to adapt and adjust.
absolutely.
That was literally like kind of like you said, that was the point of the UN after World War II, was to allow our allies time to rebuild their infrastructure, rebuild their countries, and rebuild their defenses.
Yeah.
We were supposed to be keeping, we got your back while you guys get back on your feet. And instead of getting back on their feet and then tending to their own, they got back on their feet and they were just it's kind of like they took it for granted. It's like the little kid that keeps popping off to the school bully because he knows his older brother will kick the guy's ass. And then at some point, his older brother has to graduate and get a job because he's in debt up to his tits because he went to college. And all of a sudden, the little brother's still popping off at the mouth, but there's nobody around to kick the bully's ass anymore. That's a problem, and that's what they're all starting to kind of realize is like,
I think that's a great analogy, actually. That is literally the
what?
situation.
And meanwhile, we're over here, the older brother that's got $190,000 in student loans to pay off. That and let's just say we had enough sense not to get a humanities degree, but we're still in a bad spot. So
Right.
I mean, yeah, theoretically, if we tighten our belts and we stop going out for frickin' Tuesday night dinner and start eating ramen a little more regularly, we can actually pay off our student debt because we can get a job that actually pays. But that's gonna, again, that requires tightening the belt. That requires cutting the waste. Saying, do I really need a Dunkin' or should I just buy a fucking Mr. Coffee for the same price as 2 cups of coffee from Dunkin'?
Right. Yeah. Well, I think the only criticism I personally have on how Trump has been handling this Russia-Ukraine situation is, he and I understand. Look, you don't want to trigger World War III. If we step in with boots on the ground, that's exactly where this is going to go. So I get his hands-off approach and trying to broker peace, but at the same time, you're publicly stating that you're going to start bombing Iran, who is an ally of Russia and China, who have both stated that they will step in at the behest of Iran to help defend them. So no matter what you do and what you want to commit to, it seems like we're going to be entering a war somewhere.
Yeah,
So
I that was one of the things I liked when Trump was running as a no more wars guy. I was on board with that.
yeah,
We need a time of no conflict for a while. We were in the sandbox for 20 years. We need a breather,
yeah, agreed,
And
agreed.
I think socially a lot of people feel that way too. So that I know that's one thing that's got a lot of people like, dude, I voted for you because you said no war. What the fuck? This
Yeah.
this is not an action. This is the prelude to a fucking war.
Well, I don't want people to get the wrong impression that, let's say people would say I'm a conservative turncoat or whatever, like you're against Trump. No, that's not what I'm trying to convey here. I'm literally just, there's nothing wrong with questioning and holding his feet to the fire either. I mean, look, I admitted I voted for him, so why do I not have a right to question some of these things?
Exactly.
You know, there's nothing wrong with that. And the other thing that has to be said, because I don't think enough people around the world hear it, is you may hate Trump, but it doesn't mean Americans hate you. Like, I don't hate the UK. I don't hate France. I do not.
well, I mean,
Yeah,
France.
right. But
And
you
I'm
get it,
saying,
right? Like,
and I'm saying that as someone of French descent. So
but
I'm
people have this perception that all of America suddenly, like, we are your enemy. No, you're turning us into your enemy because you don't like that the funding's being cut off, and we're not just going to automatically step in and start sending weapons to anyone willy-nilly. Okay, I understand you're mad about that, but like, we don't hate you. I think in the end, if shit hits the fan, Aaron, we're going to step in and help them.
oh
I
yeah,
mean,
no,
why wouldn't we?
there's no way that I mean we're not going full isolationist. Like,
No, that'd be insane.
that would be if I got elected. That would if I was there, I'd be like, you know what? All y'all, we're putting a 1 year moratorium on us doing anything. Will you fuckers figure this out? Because
Aaron for president.
we want to be appreciated. And once you guys have had a little taste of what it's like when we're not there to pull your ass out of the fire, then we'll talk. Like I said, and
Right.
it would, and I would be like, that is my policy: 1 year moratorium on any foreign intervention. Figure this shit out.
Actually, if there's any place where I want to stop intervening is the Middle East. I look, culturally we're way too far apart.
Yeah.
Our Western ideals do not work there, and in turn, theirs don't work in our culture. They got to figure it out and manage it on their own. And the only reason we're always there, well, we not the only, but there's resources. We put our nose where it doesn't belong. I believe sometimes where it's like
Oh
we
yeah.
don't need to be there. And I get that we're always back in Israel. and I'm not bashing Israel, but I gotta also say, look, because they know their big brother, the U.S., is here, they kind of do things that they shouldn't, and they have a right to react and protect themselves. So I'm not making the argument. This isn't a Gaza, Palestine, Israel argument, by the way. I'm just saying that a lot of things happen there because Israel knows that we have their back, and in turn, everybody hates Israel. And then after they're done arguing about how much they want to kill all of anybody who is Israeli, they then start turning on themselves. And it's like you're never gonna fix the conflict there because they have a common enemy in Israel, but then after they're done with that, they all turn on each other anyway.
Yeah,
Like
and
everybody's arguing over religious rights, land rights, etc. Like this goes back thousands of years. We gotta just back out of this and let them figure it out. And I know that's not the right humanitarian response, but
yeah,
we're not helping things.
no, we're prolonging things, and it's a very drawn out situation. And
I know I'm going to get shit for what I said, but I,
fuck 'em.
I just,
You know,
I just think I know I'm not always right, and that may not be the right opinion, but I think my overall message is like, look, let the Middle East govern themselves. Let them figure this out. Let them draw their own lines and find out who the superpowers are supposed to be in that area. And then we can go and try to broker a relationship with them. But if we keep meddling in their affairs, it's just going to be a constant dystopia um,
and
of just unrest and segregation. And I mean, we're not, like I said, we're just not helping the situation. We got to just back out of that area in general and just let them do what they want to do. But keep an eye on them because listen, Iran is crazy. They will launch a nuclear weapon if they have it. We know this.
yeah,
But we gotta be a little more hands off, I think.
yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you. Actually, I remember every time things start heating up over there, and I'm not pro one side or the other, but I do have like my objective opinions about certain things where things I look at, and I've said it on multiple episodes when things start heating up in that little area. I'm like, these are people that have been literally slaughtering each other since time immemorial. Their great 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 grandfather didn't like that guy's great 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 grandfather, and they've been killing each other back and forth. And it happens, and like you said, it's a cultural difference. We don't necessarily share the same beliefs, values, views of the world. Trying to apply our morals and values to their, like I said, at this point, generational doctrinal conflict is a little unrealistic in my mind. But and like kind of like you said, we have Israel's back to the point where everybody's like, oh well, you're always on Israel's side and da da da. Well, here's the thing about that. If you look historically, that's true to an extent, but we've also been a check valve against Israel sometimes because
We
um,
have.
a lot of people have been maybe either too disconnected or just too freaking young to remember this. But like, I mean, we're about the same age. When we were young, I remember things were heating up in the Middle East. I don't remember it super clear because again, we were young. But I remember my dad saying something to the effect of, um, because they were talking about it on the news, and my dad was like, "Well, you do realize the only reason Israel hasn't completely wiped them off the map is because we told them not to, right?" And I was just like, and at the time I was too young to be involved. My dad was talking to one of his buddies about something, and I, particularly when it comes to military type stuff, I respect my dad's opinions on things. He seems to know what he's talking about, and for that's a whole nother conversation. But
No, the U.S. did. I forget which war it was. It's one of those the Arab wars, but
yeah,
um, I actually did a show, and I should know this. I feel stupid for not recalling it. But they did step in. It wasn't just the U.S. Most of the world at that time was against Israel's actions because they were literally on a path to genocide.
they were
Uh,
like, you guys keep doing this shit. We're just gonna get rid of the problem by getting rid of you.
yeah. So you're right. We haven't been we haven't given been wholeheartedly on everything they do backing them. But I think the point I was making is them knowing you got the United States of America right here behind your shoulder, I think emboldens them to do certain things that they never would do if we weren't there.
Yeah,
And I think that's the point I was trying to make.
and,
Um,
yeah. Like I get what you're saying. And it's again, like I said, it's a little brother that's got his You know,
Yeah.
got a linebacker
A
brother standing right behind him.
great analogy. Like I said, that's a great way to put it. It really is. And man, I don't know. The Israeli relationship really, like, people don't want to admit it, but it's really just a strategic military advantage for us. Like, we have to have something there, that we have that presence in that particular area just because of where they're at, their location. So there's a geopolitical and military advantage, both in geopolitical relationships as well as military advantage to that particular area. And if it wasn't Israel, we would probably want to try to be friends with Egypt or someone within that particular area to where
Yeah.
we had that relationship.
And
But
also somebody who's functionally closer to our structure too, because I mean,
well, true, exactly. So we need that presence. I get why, but I don't know. I just think that they we need to reassess that relationship personally. Look, we give them a minimum. This isn't even the total amount, Aaron. A minimum of $3.2 billion every year to Israel just because they're Israel. This isn't the total amount every year. This is just the minimum amount.
yeah, there's always other, inclusions, packages, upgrades,
Yeah,
support
and
structure.
so, like I said, I'm not being anti-Israel. I'm just using this relationship as an example of, maybe we just need to get out of the Middle East for a bit. I'm not saying abandon Israel, but we also have to let them take a few bumps on the head, I think. If they go a little too far, I mean, there has to be some consequences, just as there would be for us, or any country.
Yeah,
Uh, Same thing that happened to Russia, when they tried to step in the area, and they still have some presence, but same thing. I mean, nothing's going to go unchecked, and I think that they just become too emboldened lately, you know. And I don't know, it's just my opinion, but
well, I mean, I think
whatever.
well that chalks up to the leadership too, and that's a whole nother topic I'm going to start ranting about now. Where and it's a global phenomenon too, to a certain extent. We're seeing a lot of really shitty decision making coming out of a lot of supposed leaders in most of the world at this point because they're old, they're entrenched, and they're trying to. And honestly, and this may just be me reading too much into it, but they're they realize they're old motherfuckers and they're like, oh, I need to leave my mark on the world. I'm not going to be around for the consequences of these actions.
Yeah,
Maybe I'm just going to try and make sure they remember my name.
yeah,
And
yeah.
not to the same extent in the US, I don't believe, other than the fact that we are being governed by a bunch of geriatric shit stains who will not be around to reap the consequences of their actions. But
Aaron,
I don't think they're worried about legacy so much as they're worried about just like enriching their own bloodline. So
why does every president seem to be over 70 years old?
because
What's going on right now?
that's I went I actually I had, which reminds me, if you'd like some stickers after we
Okay,
send me your address, I'll send you some stickers. I
sure.
actually I have some of them now, and I didn't give enough of them out soon enough. But they're Aaron for President 2024, and I had a whole it started as a joke because somebody who like I found out about it like third order, which is just how the internet works sometimes. Like you don't even realize you've become a meme until somebody else tells you about it. And one of
True.
the guys who listens to the show, who is also another indie podcaster, went on another show who I had never even heard of at that point, and they were talking about somehow they got on the subject of different podcasts they listened to, and he's like, oh yeah, this show, I had to say it, and this guy Aaron that's on there, and blah 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 blah, and they're talking, oh yeah, I after you talked about it, I checked him out too, and this guy's got a lot of good points, and I don't want to, I feel kind of stupid saying this because it sounds like I'm blowing smoke up my own ass, but this was like the conversation they had on that episode because I went and listened to it because somebody tagged me in it, like, hey, go check this out, they're talking about you, and then the one good guy was like, dude, Aaron for president, and I was just like, that's fucking funny. So I made a graphic out of it and I slapped it on some merch and then I just like, one of those like sticker mule, get 100 stickers for $20
I
deal.
I want to get a button. You have any buttons?
Um, I do not. I used to have a button maker. I don't know where it is.
Come on, that is like
That would be
that that's
hilarious.
like standard campaign material, Aaron. Let's go.
Yeah, but like I said, I wasn't campaigning. It was just a meme.
I
But
know.
but
Well,
but I was talking about that at one point, and I'm like, and honestly, I'm damn near too old for the job. I don't think we should be having old fucking people in that office. And
no, I agree. And
There should
You know,
be
I
caps.
just want to apologize for going down the Middle East route for a bit
Oh, no,
there.
it's
So
okay.
I hope it wasn't an uncomfortable thing
Oh,
for your listeners or whatever.
they'll
But
get over it.
to your point, getting back to the domestic side of things, yeah, there's no reason we should have career politicians that are going into their late 80s that can barely stand or talk
Running for reelection.
yeah, that is just stupid. I mean, look,
It's like
it's
Mitch
called public
McConnell announced
service.
he's not running for reelection. No shit, he died last year.
It's public service, man. It's not supposed to be a career.
No, it's not. It
It
was
was
never.
never set up that way.
And that's the other. I love how the screeching went up a notch after they said, yeah, we're going to start looking at how all these politicians are worth multiple millions of dollars when they make $179,000 a year. Like,
Okay, so that leads me to something I read earlier. I saw something about Cash Patel, right? And everybody are suddenly disappointed because it's like, where's the investigations? For example, what you just brought up, a lot of these people, Congress, 172, there were 174,000 a year, whatever. They come out the other end as multimillionaires, and they try to chalk it up to speaking engagements in books. Like bullshit. No one's buying your books, guys. Let's just be real.
your
That's a big
supporters
fucking
can't
lie.
read.
Yeah. No one's buying your books. Like this is all bullshit. You're just funneling money. And,
Oh,
and
actually,
so
I'm sorry. Just real quick. Did
yeah.
I can't remember who it was. I want to say it might have been Michelle Obama's book, but there was somebody who got like a multi-million-dollar book deal, and they were like, number one bestseller and all this other shit. And recently, it came out there was a whole warehouse they found in like New Jersey, like 150 million copies of this book
I
in a
believe that
warehouse.
was actually Michelle's book. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it
think you're
was
right on that one.
fucking hilarious to me. I was like, oh my god.
But the investigations, right? So FBI, big one, Cash. Like, what are we doing? You have all the evidence there. First off, when you're looking at less than $200,000 a year salary, and you have someone like Nancy Pelosi that's worth hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars,
200
it's
and
very
seven.
well known she's an
Yeah.
insider trader. This, and you've sent other people to jail for this before, right? They've been jailed, and yet she's still going on. I mean, other members of Congress are still getting away with it, and there's nothing happening. There's no consequences. You have CEOs who have been in prison for alleged insider trading, but yet you have people in Congress that can't even be questioned about it for some reason.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
ridiculous. Now the only thing I was honestly, I'm so far I've been very disappointed in Cash, and I've not
Yeah,
really about
I'm
it,
not
but
seeing the
I'm not
you
seeing what I
know,
was expecting from him. I was expecting a pit bull, and so far
right.
he's more of a more of a retriever. He's more of a golden doodle. He's not doing what I expected. I thought he was going to come in and just be rabid. And I mean, now like Bondi, I would.
But that was his brand, right?
Yeah, that
What
was
he
the whole
ran
ticket.
on.
That's what everybody was like, dude, he's going to go in there and clean house. He's going to go in there and I understand these things take time. I don't expect instant turnover. I don't expect things. I mean, you can't gut and purge a corrupt industry overnight, and I'm aware of that. And I'm saying that as like the FBI is an industry. It's not just an institution. It's not just an agency. It's an industry. It creates a continuing business for itself. I 110% believe that. It needs to justify its existence, so it exists to justify itself. It's it's an Ouroboros. It's the snake eating its own tail. It has to be, otherwise, I mean, any sort of thing like that, if it's too successful, it winds up gutting itself, because all of a sudden, if you've got all the criminals put away, you only need a maintenance force. You don't need an expeditionary force. And, then all of a sudden you lose your budget, you lose your influence, you lose your power. So there's a
Yeah.
lot to push back against there. I don't expect that to be remedied overnight.
Well, institutions of power want to remain in power, right?
Exactly.
I mean, once you taste that and you have that, you're not going to want to let it go.
I mean, it's the most addictive drug on the planet. I mean, never mind
Yeah.
coke, never mind fent, power. Yeah, that's the one.
So Cash has been disappointing lately. Do you think he's going to turn it around at some point? I mean, do you think he's
I'm
going to
still
come through?
a modicum of hope for him, because and that's kind of where I was thinking about going with this before I sidetracked myself. The thing about it is, I do that a lot. The thing about it is, though, with Cash, and let's say theoretically, hypothetically, yes, it's been what, 2.5 months. It's like 10 weeks or whatever we're at this point. And like I said, I don't expect change overnight. And we don't need a lot of grandstanding in the forefront while you're trying to get things in a position where, these people aren't going to be getting tipped off from their insider supporters. You got to purge the system before you can really move forward with some of the stuff. But also, if you're actively pursuing an investigation, you don't go out and make social media posts about it. You don't go, "Hey, guess what? We're building a really strong case against Nancy and her husband and the guy that he was hitting him in the head with the hammer because we think he was getting stock tips after Paul was done with him." You don't make all that information public.
Yeah.
You've got your case built and you're ready to throw the fucking book at him.
Yeah, agreed.
You
Good
know,
point.
you don't do a bunch of publicity shoot perp walks until you know you're going to be able to make the charges stick.
The only thing about that though is like some of the points you're making, like for example, just bring up Nancy Pelosi again. This has been known for years. Like this has been looked into and then suddenly just like brushed under the rug. So it's not like they don't already have evidence. So they
Yeah.
don't really need to do much.
Well, like I said, I think what they need to do though is they need to make sure the people that are giving her the back door or the people she's got dirt on,
Yeah, you got to purge the.
that's
Yeah,
got to get, you know, you got to make sure they're not going to be in there mucking up the works. Like, oh well,
true.
the chain of evidence was broken, so none of this is admissible all of a sudden.
Yeah, but
And,
then
and I
let's fast forward
guarantee a lot
to.
of that stuff has been the evidence has been deliberately tainted, so they can't bring it to court.
Okay, but that's very true. But let's fast forward to like the biggest case of them all, really, that has nothing's happened is Epstein.
Oh yeah, that's
Epstein fault. Like, what's going on with that? I mean,
that's I'm
there.
so
So the problem with that one is, you're right. They got to purge the bad actors, right? Who are going to
yeah,
tip people off.
my
But
blood pressure
this
just
is
went up 3 points when you said
okay.
that.
Okay. But this is a case where they've already investigated it over many years.
Oh yeah,
They've already
the
recorded
information's
evidence.
there, the evidence is there. He's
Yeah.
already theoretically dead. I'm not. I kind of actually, when it comes to that, I start to fall into the tinfoil hat category of things because multi-billionaires don't hang themselves in prison. They don't do
Yeah,
it.
that
Especially
whole
not when
thing
you
was
have dirt
questionable.
on everybody. So I'm like, everybody's saying Epstein didn't kill himself, and the elite had him whacked. I think it's a lot more likely they found some junkie that had a similar build, threw him in the cell, and said, "Oh well, he looks like that because he's been living rough under all this stress in prison for the last 3 months, and he's on some island somewhere, you know, eh, basically kept alive because he kept his mouth shut." You know, and
You may be right on that. I mean,
I
that's
used to
extremely
think that
plausible.
sounded insane, but the more this keeps getting dragged out, the more they keep saying, "Well, we have the information," but every time that new buck comes up, I'm sitting there going, "You know what? This they're saying, well, we have to redact some of the information for national security purposes." No, the fuck you don't. The American people don't want names redacted for national security. If it's a compromise to national security, those people are still a compromise and they shouldn't be in nationally secure threatened positions. So,
I agree with you. Yeah.
I mean, I'm in a lot of ways, I'm a bit of a savage, and I'm all in favor of just getting the list and walking around with a wood chipper and just here you go, hop in. You can walk in like a man, or you can be thrown in like a child. It's up to you, but you're
This is
going.
happening. It doesn't matter.
This is
This is
happening.
happening.
Much like you told the little kids, just relax. This is happening.
Yeah, but this is such an egregious case. I mean, you want to talk about lack of humanity. I mean, literally peddling children,
Yeah,
for favors and gaining access and holding people ransom. And the parallel case to this would be, obviously Diddy. Like what's going on with Diddy? That's another one that kind of went cold and
yeah.
silent, even though they're still, going through things.
It's
And the only thing I could say, Aaron, is maybe there's parallels and connections, and that's why with you have an active case currently with the Diddy files, and then you have Epstein. Maybe there's some connections there that they don't want to reveal yet because they're trying to convict on this side as well. And then the other thing about the national security, and I'm not making excuses because I think this whole fucking thing should have been handled a long time ago, but I believe that they have leaders of nations that have been implicated in this that they can't reveal yet because it would fuck up the geopolitical landscape and our relationships right now. And now
I
and
guarantee they do.
yeah, absolutely. And so now it's like, well, if we do this, what's going to happen to this region if this person's removed? But I think that's the chance we have to take because we can't allow this type of behavior in this this sick fucking way of thinking and doing things to keep going.
Yeah,
We
you
just can't.
can't say, well, we're just going to get most of the tumor. I mean,
No, it's
that's a
time, man.
bad analogy because sometimes they actually do say we're just going to try and get most of the tumor, but those are usually the ones that metastasize and wind up killing you too.
No, I
So,
agree. I am in agreement with you. Like this whole thing has gone long enough. Like I don't give a fuck about the ramifications anymore and how they might affect this relationship or whatever case you're working on here. Look, if these guys are implicated in all these other nefarious acts, just get fucking rid of them now. It ends it all.
I mean,
It
yeah,
ends it
they
all.
stop being a threat when they become mulch. I mean, they could
Fertilizer.
actually contribute.
Fertilizer.
Yeah, they could contribute something useful and make a beautiful plant bloom.
Oh wow. Well, it's a perfect nutrient for mushrooms, I hear. I'm just saying.
I mean, yeah. Actually, that's another fun subject. I completely unrelated to pedophiles and wood chippers, but I did find out something interesting about mushrooms, and apparently, the funny thing is, it's for whatever. And this is just one of those. It's not like it's particularly. It's just when you talk about how legal systems are kind of fucked up in some ways. Apparently, like hallucinogenic mushrooms, you can legally buy the spores. You just can't buy the actual mushrooms. Which
I didn't know that.
yeah, it's a really weird legal loophole because for some the spores themselves are not hallucinogenic or something like that. And so you can like order the spores online and they're not illegal until you put them on something to grow. And it's like the weird it just that popped
That is
that's my
interesting.
ADHD brain flaring up where it's like you said mushrooms. Guess what?
Right.
I know a fun fact about mushrooms.
I didn't even know that. That's crazy. I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
I go down weird rabbit holes on the internet sometimes, and like I'm not particularly as a middle-aged boring ass guy. I'm not particularly into mind-altering substances. I barely even drink anymore these days. I have a couple cocktails and that's about it. But I still find things like weird legal loopholes interesting, and like
Yeah.
when I'm 75 swipes deep down some random scroll on Instagram or whatever, and all of a sudden I like buy legal mushrooms, magic mushrooms legally for sale in all 50 states. And I'm like, that can't be right.
Right.
To the internet. And I start, because that's one of those things people don't realize because a lot of people aren't like analytically minded where their particular form of OCD goes, you know what? I read something really weird on the internet, and 99% of like all legal hearings, rulings, and decrees, laws, and decisions can be publicly accessed. It's public information. It's not necessarily readily available in any kind of way that makes any sense to the normal person on the street, but you can pull up the legal documents, legal hearings, briefings, rulings, judgments, et cetera, pretty handily. I mean, there's public archives on all of this stuff. It's just it's if your brain isn't wired a certain way, reading it is going to make you go cross-eyed because
Well,
it
isn't there similar rules or there was with like tobacco? Like something about you can't buy cigarettes online, but
yeah
somehow we're able to do cigars
yeah there
somehow.
it's just different classifications different it's so weird.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother one. I haven't looked into it too closely. I just kind of went, yeah, that tracks, but I quit smoking, so I'm not really worried about it. I I get my cigars from a local guy, and I occasionally get some cigars from my boss because he's got a guy, and and he gets Cubans, so I'm like,
Oh, everybody has a guy that gets the Cubans.
yeah, well, no, I mean,
Oh,
I,
you know what I'm saying?
I've
It-
met his guy. I love his guy. His guy cracks me up. He's a little old guy that gets him on vacation because he goes to South America like 4 or 5 times a year, and he will come back with like a briefcase just full of cigars.
Damn.
It's like, boom, here you go. I got your order.
Well, I need
Like,
to be there for that meeting.
right? I mean, oh, I love my job for so many.
Well, that's the thing. I never did the cigarette deal. I'm not into it. I don't smoke weed either. I'm not into it. It's like, and I'm not anti anybody who does. It's just not for me, is what it is.
Exactly. It's not for me.
Yeah. But I'm a cigar guy. I'm not gonna ever give that up. And there's this whole move to like stop drinking. It's bad. Don't drink. Look, I like my fucking whiskey. It's not gonna happen. I'm gonna keep
It's
drinking my whiskey. I'm gonna drink my champagne, and I don't give a shit.
yeah, exactly. I mean,
You
it's
know.
just as long
But
as you're not.
but I don't need it. I don't need that substance to get on with my day. That's the difference. I
Yeah.
enjoy it when,
It's
after I'm done working or whatever, and
off
I'm
lips,
good. That I
relax.
have my window, right? I have my window.
Exactly. It's I mean, granted, sometimes my window is like noon on a Friday, but that's more of a social thing.
That sounds like stress management.
No, actually, it's more like office morale management.
Okay. Never mind.
I love my job. um, like St. Patrick's Day rolls around, and we're drinking black and tans at noon in the office. It's
Nice. That's
I
nice.
yeah, I like I said, I have a fun workplace. It's
That's awesome, man. Um,
I'm in the process of planning the first week because we have cookouts like once a month when the weather's decent
oh, very cool.
at the office where we set up little pop-up tents in the parking lot and buffet tables, and we've got a 12 burner gas grill we pull out, and I get to I make a bunch of sides for the buffet line, and then I'm standing out the grill, making steaks or shrimp or whatever we're having that
Who's
particular day.
who's your resident barbecue guy? Oh, you're the one.
Yeah, no, that's the thing is it's kind of funny because every once in a while somebody will say something and I'm like, you do realize I appreciate that we're all having a good day and it's a good time, we're having a good time, but you guys are out here eating and drinking and having a good time. I'm still cooking. Chef is still working right now. And they're just like, oh yeah. And I'm like, I'm not bitching because I'm doing it with like a beer in my hand or
Yeah, but be honest with
or a
yourself,
glass of
man.
whiskey while I'm barbecuing. So it's like I'm just like, and it's fun. That's the thing. I
Yeah,
love
I was gonna
what I
say you
do.
got to be
I
honest. You can't
care.
you can't say you don't enjoy it though, right?
Oh yeah, no, not at all. I like the cookouts because that's when I start doing stupid stuff. Like
Yeah,
I come up with the most outlandish ideas, and I have yet to have the owner of the company tell me no. So, like
that's very nice.
at one point, I decided I wanted to do armadillo eggs, and so I
Huh.
I made like 90 armadillo eggs, and I was smoking them in the parking lot right before, and that was for like I want to say that was for like maybe the Christmas party. I don't know. It was like winter, and I was still out on the loading dock with a smoker, making
Nice.
armadillo eggs the day before the function. And
That's cool you have a work environment like that. Not everybody has that, you
oh no,
know.
I mean, yeah, I got to do. I introduced a lot of my coworkers to alligator for the first time because I did.
Okay, how is that? I've never had it. Like, what's it comparable
I
to?
really like alligator. Is texture wise, it's like almost like a chicken. Um,
That's
like
what I heard.
like muscle wise, but it's got kind of a seafoody flavor to it. It's really
Oh, okay.
it tastes like a mild fish, but it has a texture of chicken, which
Interesting.
that's the best way I can think of to put it. And it also kind of depends on how you cook it too. Like when I did it, I got little like 2-inch cubes and I soaked them in a marinade out of like buttermilk, slap your mama, um, fresh garlic, and what else did I put in there? Uh, some ground bay leaf and a couple other things. Marinated it overnight, let it soak, and it kind of neutralized the flavor a little. And then I battered it in oven, fried it. So, because we want to be a little bit healthy.
So like fried alligator cubes.
Yeah, so it's like fried alligator tail, and then I made like a sauce Creole to put over it.
Ooh,
And
that sounds good.
yeah, oh, it came out beautifully.
That sounds good, actually. Damn
Yeah,
it, Aaron, I haven't had my breakfast yet. Making
I'm
me
sorry.
hungry.
Well, I
Hey,
mean,
honestly,
had a bagel.
I want to go back kind of to something because after you said her name, it suddenly just won't get out of my damn head when you said Jasmine Crockett.
Oh, for Christ's sake! Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Oh
Triggering me
no,
again.
no, please do. I
No, I was just gonna make a point because when you brought her up, I was thinking how interesting it is that the Democrat Party has been in such bad shape due to their messaging and whatnot that their front runners for president are like Jasmine Crockett, AOC, and Bernie Sanders. I
yeah,
don't know
that
how Bernie Sanders keeps popping up after all these years.
Bernie
And he,
Sanders is like that eternal whack-a-mole. He's the one you never hit.
well,
Um,
he
and
also
I'm saying
came
that as
up.
somebody who at one point was like, yeah, I could kind of get behind this guy. He seems fairly down to earth. No, I rescind everything nice I ever said about that old man.
Well,
Um,
and that's the other reason he popped up in my head because it's like they're considering him, but like we were just having that discussion about when are
yeah,
you too old? Like when is it
when are you
time?
too old? I mean,
Yeah.
he's definitely entering his old man yells at cloud phase. He really is. He's
So
getting
what do you?
louder. He's getting
Yeah, yeah.
more unhinged. I mean, and I feel horrible saying this in a certain respect because I don't mean to make light of the condition, but he is showing like early onset Alzheimer, or not, I can't really call it early in his case, but he's showing like the initial onset signs of like Alzheimer's, where they get louder, more emotional, and they lose the volume control, which is, I mean, if you look at his recent public speaking engagements, I mean, some people are conveying it as well. He's very passionate about what he's saying. And I'm like, no, he's literally getting unchecked. Like he doesn't even realize how loud he's getting. You can see it in this.
Right.
Sorry for the listeners. I just gestured at my face.
Well, he's just another example of it's time to go. Just retire, man.
uh, you
At this point, you're not contributing anything.
you are a communist that got rich. I don't understand. Just go away.
I mean, look, that's the Bernie Sanders conversation is literally an entire episode. That guy, I can dive into, but I'm sure
think I could
you
make a
sound
show
very
about
well versed
Bernie
as
Sanders.
well. Yeah.
And like I said, I'm saying that as somebody who at one point when it was the candidacy was down between him and Hillary, I was like, well, I guess I could vote for Bernie if they run him. I guess. I mean, there's no way we're going to let him do everything he's talking about, but he's got some good idea, and that was literally the last time where like in like 2016, I was like, yeah, I could have a beer with Bernie. Now I'm like, I wouldn't go out in public with Bernie because I'd be picking up the check and he's got more money than me, and I'm not okay with that.
Yeah, pretty much. So what's your opinion on the darlings right now? Jasmine Crockett, we got AOC, and of course Gavin, the devil won't go away.
Yeah, no, get. I have thoughts on Gavin that could get me on a freaking watch list.
Oh man, I am dropping some great names. I'm getting you
Yeah.
riled. Let's go.
Okay, but let's start with Jasmine because that's what
Okay.
started this whole conversation. My most significant issue with her, and I mean, to me, it literally sums up the modern left in a lot of ways. Because I kind of like you, I don't like really calling them Democrats anymore, even because, like, if you look at Trump, RFK, Tulsi, like everyone right now that is the devil by all of their standards, they are mid '90s Democrats. Their
Absolutely
current
true.
stances and policies are mid '90s Democrat stances, beliefs, and policies. That is when I voted Democrat. I voted for Bill Clinton in the first election I ever voted in. That I was in high school.
I get it.
I ditched class to go vote for Bill Clinton because I was like, saxophone. All right, cool. And he's not ancient. I'm here for this. I mean, to me, George Bush, old man. No.
Yeah,
So
I get it. Yeah.
again, and a lot of people say, we didn't leave the Democratic Party, they left us, and that's how I kind of feel about things. But Jasmine Crockett, if you look, and again, this is the internet's forever. Media exists. These people act like the past is done. Like there's a very huge problem in our country of people that have no retention of previous of like anything before the current moment. I mean, it's almost like a Buddhist: live in the now. The past doesn't exist and the future can't happen. We only have this moment, except they're doing it in the dumbest fucking way possible. So you go back and you look when Jasmine Crockett was campaigning, when she was trying to get her appointment as a prosecutor and all these other things, she was very, very, now I don't want to say demure, but she was very calm, very well spoken, very, I here's what I believe. I can speak in an educated manner because I'm an educated woman, because I went to private school my entire life. I'm a college educated woman. I am a lawyer. Here's my beliefs. She gets elected to the Senate and becomes the worst stereotype of black people that ever, like, if you went and found some hood owning KKK asshole from fucking Western Kentucky and said, what do you think black people behave like? That everything in her demeanor, her behavior, her approach, the way she talks, the way she acts, the way she dresses, the fake eyelashes, the fake fingernails, the fake hair, all of that shit is everything you're going to get some cracker inbred motherfucker to say black people are. And she's doing that. And anybody who has the audacity to question it must be a racist. It's not that we're looking at her, historical behavior, demeanor, and actions. and the way she presented herself, it's because she's acting that way now. We must be racist for going, this don't add up. Real people don't behave like this. This is every caricature and stereotype imaginable, balled up into one loudmouth bitch who is doing it for the attention. It's for the clicks. It's the this will have them talking about me. I don't think it's genuine in any way, shape, or form. And anybody who's supportive of it, I think, is either fucking stupid or in on the con.
I got another take on that. And because look, she went to private school, right? Went to a great institution, in her higher educational years. And she always presented herself as what we would say would be professional, right? In a
Yeah.
professional manner. Especially for the position that she was going for, which she did get. Now here she is. Now, I can say this could be the possibility. Maybe who she is now is really who she always has been. Maybe she was always putting on a facade to fit in and try to get what she wanted. And now here she is, and this is, hello world, this is who I am. Possibly. Or it's exactly what you said. She just feels the need to pander for whatever reason, which is a disservice to me, to the black community, because you're just perpetuating the stereotype. And what I see on social media is most people that this is what I see on social media, by the way. I mean, I'm not going to any
Social
community
media is
meetings.
not
Yeah.
real life.
Yeah. But just from responses is there's a lot of people in the black community like, this isn't the way. This is not representing us.
Yeah.
And they're not necessarily happy with how she's carrying herself. And she's not getting the message.
Yeah.
She's not getting the message.
Well, and see,
So
to your point, though, I'm sorry, I don't mean to derail you, but
no, you're not.
say this. To your point, that if, you're saying that, well, maybe that's not how she was acting leading up to this, was not her authentic self or whatever. She was just putting on that facade because she knew that's what was expected of that position. That means she's cognizant of what's expected of that position. And so again,
True.
this is a conscious choice to say, well, I was doing this because, that's what I thought I needed to present to get the job. Well, that doesn't mean once you get the job, you get to start, acting an ass. I knew what was expected of me to get my current position. I knew the demeanor I had to present when I walked in the door. And I'm not saying I was anything other than myself because, again, I don't know how to do that. Don't function that way. I vapor lock if I try to be fake. It's just in my demeanor. Plus, again, I'm a chef. This is not I did not come up in an industry where you were anything other than, you were a chef. And
Yeah.
fortunately, I work at a company that accepts that and realizes I can turn on the professionalism when I need to. But, I'm not expected to be walking around being completely phony all the time either. It's like when it's time to be professional, I'm professional because that's what a professional does.
I get what you're saying. And in this case, I agree because look, she's going to work. She's in a position as an elected official that represents the people who put her there, and she can't even act the part. She can't even act the part.
Yeah.
And so this is an example of, or could be an example of, is she literally going out of her way to perpetuate and continue to peddle racism and social divide? Is this a part of her game plan?
Yeah. I've said it a lot of times, and you see the memes about it too. It's like, we had racism. Actually, we talked about it on your show. We had racism on life support, and they're just
Absolutely.
keep kicking it along because, like, our generation didn't care.
No.
It's like, hey, dude, I'm descendant of X, Y, and Z. Who the fuck cares? Are you cool or are you a douche? That's that should be the metric. Do you suck? I
Well,
don't know what you look like.
she needs to go, man, because she's not representing anything other than racism and social divide. And that kind of approach is literally not getting anything done.
Oh yeah,
I mean, yeah, people are talking about her. Sure, she's getting clicks and likes, and who knows if that isn't just all, fucking bots, to be honest.
sure a lot of it is.
Yeah, and so I'm with you on that. But the fact remains that they're considering her as a front runner to represent the Democratic Party in an election. Like,
honestly,
serious?
I hope they do.
Right? And look, for as dumb as AOC is, at least I think she's not as intelligent as she needs to be.
Oh, she's a sack of 10 penny hammer nails.
She is heads and tails a much better representative than fucking Jasmine Crockett, to be
Well, yeah,
quite honest.
at least she carries herself better. I mean,
Well, at least, right?
yeah,
And then now we have Gavin. So what do you think of that? Like, do you think they're going to push Gavin
I
into the
think
front?
Gavin's trying to market himself. I mean, if you notice with his podcast, he's oh well, I'll talk to people on the right because and but he's I don't think it's having quite the impact he thought it was going to because I think he's trying to
Right.
rebrand himself as a centrist.
Yeah,
Every
I agree.
every right-leaning person that he's had on that show has called out how he has directly been hands-on for every leftist extremist policy that comes across. He hasn't met a leftist idea he didn't like, you know? And now he's
True.
trying to walk it back. He's, oh, well, you're right. Women's sports do need to be protected. Women's spaces need to be protected. Your own voting record makes that a lie. That is publicly available information. And I don't, I mean, he's always going to have, I don't, honestly, I don't know how he got into office. I don't know how he survived the recall.
Man, California, you can't explain how elections even the outcomes here. You just can't.
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of theories. None of them are very kind.
Well, believe me, a lot of people, I'm sure, share your sentiment and your
A
theories.
lot of the people I talk to that live out in California kind of share my sense. I mean, I don't want to say that I only exclusively talk to people that see things my way. However, I do attract a certain kind of person that is some random stranger from across the country that I've never met in person that wants to talk to me all of a sudden.
I'm going to say, Aaron, the thing with Gavin, what he's been doing, trying to look like a moderate, is a clear message in my mind that the Democrat Party is missing. He's literally going out his way to do this because he knows deep inside that America no longer sides with this far left ideology and way of doing things. He knows he has to appeal to the majority of the masses that abandon the Democrat Party in the election. They know this.
Yeah.
He seems to be the only one that I think gets it and is why he's acting the way he is, but everybody else will not see it. The
Yeah.
rest of the Democrat Party just doesn't want to see
Party
that.
doesn't want to acknowledge it.
Right. So
And
he sees it.
without them throwing that support behind him, he's cooked because the people that the party lost aren't looking at him like, oh well, maybe he's coming around.
Yeah, well, he's still beholden to his masters, right?
Exactly. It's even if this was a legitimate shift and he's decided, you know what, this may actually be the wrong thing to be doing.
Well,
This
he
may
tries to
not
be
be
a moderate, right? And then he goes out of his way now, reported that he wants to broker tariff deals with other countries directly with California so that California's unaffected.
yeah, well,
Like suddenly we're
we're
not part of the United States.
yeah, yeah, that's not gonna win him any favors either. I mean, he may be, and honestly, my governor's doing the same damn thing. Pritzker's in Mexico right now. A taxpayer funded vacation for him and his 70 of his closest friends. And he's down there talking about, oh, well, we're here with our sister city in Mexico to reinforce how Illinois is always going to be their partner. And da-da-da. It's like, I know it's because Pritzker's trying to posture for the nod too. The problem is like there are enough people in Illinois who are just like, dude, nobody in this country is going to vote for you. We're not going to vote for you if you run for president.
Right.
With the exception of that very deep blue liberal core in like Chicago and Springfield and a couple. I mean, it's like I said. I think it's. I can't remember exactly. I want to say it's 11 counties in Illinois are blue, and literally the entire rest of the state is like red, like not even purple, red. But those counties have enough population density where they overturn the entire state because like the left like to say, land don't vote, but no, land is where your groceries come from. Land is where all your resources are provided by.
Right.
And the reason
Yeah.
those areas are less densely populated is because we don't want to be around you assholes.
It was very similar to California in that, in that regard.
Yeah,
Um,
you
and
guys
what
have like LA and
and what so what Pritzker's doing, what your mayor in Chicago is doing, or governor in Chicago, I mean mayor and governor are both trying to do,
oh, the
and
mayor is even worse, but
and then here in California, well, with Governor Newsom, then you got the mayor of LA and Sacramento, et cetera. What these people don't understand is you're intentionally going out of your way to show that you are trying to stand alone and intentionally driving a wedge into the entire United States of America. So are they trying to intentionally show the country to be weak? I mean, this pandering isn't helping anything in terms of a United States of America, right? Showing a singular front in policy and in power and in anything else with the rest of the world. So they really believe that they can stand on their own as their own country, is which is how they're trying to approach this.
Well,
And so in doing that, you're abandoning all the federal protections and everything else that the United States government has to offer. And I have idiots here in California that are all like, "Yep, we got to secede. We should do an entire West Coast, a new West Coast country that includes California, Oregon, Washington. Oh, and let's rope in Colorado too, just because they're cool." Like, what in the fuck kind of sentiment or thought process is that? Like, none of that makes any sense. It really doesn't.
no, it doesn't, and those are the same people who are like, oh well, we're 14% of the country's economy. It's just in our state. Well, here's the thing about that. You may be 14% of the overall economic transactions and business, and that number's sliding because California is toxic to business culture. So,
Yes, it is.
but yes, you're 14% of the national GDP. That 14% is in a lot of ways in highly specialized fields that aren't necessarily conducive to day-to-day life. If you don't have the rest of the country to market that business to, without, if you're a new country, all of a sudden you're subject to tariffs too. And you think you're
Right.
going to break off the U.S. and not get your balls slammed in a fucking vice for the process? No. It's going to be naughty, naughty. We're going to slap the shit out of you for this. So assume all of a sudden that, 14% of, again, stuff that would primarily have to be exported because it's not food. I mean, yes, California has some great, food production capacity, and a lot of the resources are not currently dedicated to that. I mean, the business could be there. The
Not like it
resources
was
could
years
be there,
ago,
but
no.
yeah, it's not like it was. There's not plethoras of wide open farmland that's being utilized as it could be.
Nope.
It's industrial, it's digital, a lot of electronics and Silicon Valley stuff. Silicon Valley is not something you can put on a plate. So
No,
they don't think
and
about those things when they say this stuff.
they don't. The agricultural capabilities in California is still huge. Even at the capacity it is, we could still, I'm going to say we because I live in California, can produce enough to feed more than just the United States, but quite a fair share of the rest of the world. I mean, we have that capability, but you're right. We're not utilizing it as we should anymore because same thing we were talking about earlier with outsourcing and buying things from other countries. We gave away a lot of the in produce and whatever we can grow in California away to Mexico. We started importing stuff from them because it was cheaper and now you can make more profit. Like the avocado industry just went away to them. Before it was a huge industry in California that barely survives now because of those decisions.
Yeah.
Now, if like you were saying, like California, let's say this West Coast initiative I was talking about, like let's say they're successful. What they don't realize, which you're absolutely correct on, is one of your biggest customers is literally the rest of the United States. So if the rest of the United States retaliates and goes, "Oh, you don't want to be part of the union," then we're not going to buy a fucking thing from you. We're not going to support you whatsoever. And then what about your military? How are you going to defend yourself? Like they don't think this stuff through.
Well,
Like
and
what's going to happen?
they don't have the production facilities to produce. I mean, that stuff's all built in, Texas and frickin' Arkansas, and I mean,
Anyway,
it's
so so let's get back to the Democratic Party here. They don't have any real front runners that stand out. They're failing,
yeah.
right?
I
And
don't.
now they feel like
So
they got a
strong.
big win with this hands off 2025 protest, right? This
Oh,
big
yeah.
win that was in multiple blue cities, by the way. They weren't
There was
changing
not
hearts
a
and minds.
single, no, there was not a single like turnout that was in a red stronghold. None of them. It was
We did in a few counties in California. I think Kern County had a pretty big turnout, which was a little weird, considering that it is really a red county. So there was a sprinkling of it, but it wasn't anything major.
yeah, no,
You
it
know, it,
it wasn't what they're trying to paint it as. It's
yeah.
a bunch of conservatives and moderates that are all of a sudden fed up. It's the same people that were going to the rallies and protesting before the election.
Well, and there was reports of people being bussed in,
Oh yeah,
like that same old red flag that came up during the Kamala Harris rallies.
yeah. There's like, and a couple of the bus lines are owned by Chinese tourism companies. Did you see that one? I saw that this
I
morning.
did not. I did
I was
not.
I was doing a little doom scrolling while I was waiting for my breakfast bagel to be done toasting, and I was like, "Oh, that's
While we're
funny."
talking, I'm going to look up how many actual people showed up for this because, what people don't realize, like, okay, we had 77 million or whatever people voted for Trump, and then the turnout for this, like, we can't ignore the fact that it wasn't impressive that they were able to organize. But that's the one thing the Democrat Party has always done is they've been able to somehow organize and put
And
things
they're
together.
really good at getting bodies to show up and stand around with signs. Half the time that actually have you noticed they've actually started recycling their signs? I've
Yes,
I've been seeing a
yes,
lot of signs, and it's like it doesn't even have anything to do with what the rally's actually supposed to be about.
no,
I'm
and
like,
they just they have it on. They just, oh wait, I'm here now. Let me flip it around.
yeah, no, that it's like that USAID money dried up, and we can't afford new printing. I mean,
That's
'cause
funny.
realistically, professionally printed shit like that is expensive. I mean,
Yeah, right.
when
Well,
when you're an underwater basket weaver, or you have a degree in macrame, you don't have the money to be going out and throwing at signs if somebody's not handing it to you.
what's funny is the same thing that was going on with the Tesla protests. Like they were finding, hey, within a 4 or 5 hour period, it's like everybody just punched the clock and went home, like
Yeah.
in unison. Like, all right,
Hey, oh,
12,
it's
time to
new.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
it's
big bird over there yelled, "It's time to slide down the dinosaur and go home."
yeah.
Um,
So there was reported to have been 1,200 rallies, um, and it said the organizer said over. Let me see. Founders wrote Constitution that did not begin with whatever. Anyway, organizers said over 100,000 people gathered. Okay, but
okay.
I'm not sure if that was in one city or where. I'm not sure the
I,
total
I
amount, but
I don't think that's in one city because um,
yeah.
I think that's probably more of an aggregate because like the one in Chicago, I think they were saying it was something like 7 or 8 thousand people.
Okay.
I mean, it was not an insignificant number. They had most of downtown blocked off,
It's
but
it's well, I'm trying to find numbers. I can't get a straight.
yeah,
I can't get a yeah.
this,
So it says like DC and New York. They're at, this is from Axios though, so I don't know how much we could trust. But regardless, they're saying that each of those protesters were over 100,000 each, which I find that hard to believe.
yeah,
Um,
I
they said their estimates surpassed the 500,000 RSVPs organizers counted as of Friday night.
yeah, but how hard is it to click yes on an RSVP on the internet?
Right. But let's just divide that across 1,100 or 1,200 rallies. And the reason I'm bringing this up is, well, while we may look at this as, like, what are you protesting, right? Are you protesting because you just hate Trump and Elon, or are you protesting because they're uncovering corruption and waste? Like, what are you standing on? And then it turned from that to I saw signs of people saying, oh, our bringing back the whole, oh, my body, my choice thing, it's our bodies. And then all of a sudden there was waves of Hamas protesters intertwined with this. So it's like, what was the message? What were you protesting for? Or do you just try to gather as many people together in one place to look like you were unified? Like I couldn't understand what it was all about. And then you put that number, even if it was 500,000 people against 72, 70, I forgot the numbers on the election, but over 70 million people who voted for Trump to be in office. So it looks good on the surface, right? It looks good on camera.
Yeah.
And someone said, and I might have to agree with this, but they're like, look, if the media is behind your protest or your anti-establishment movement, then you're not really the anti-establishment,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. When you are the party or the movement or whatever that's supported by the media, when you are getting all the positive coverage out of everything, and not because I don't. I miss Ted Koppel. I miss the days of reporting the facts and then letting people make their own decisions. When you
Yeah.
get the backing of corporations, the media, and a huge portion of the politicians, you're not the resistance.
No, and I don't mind them reporting this because it is a huge event. Look, you gotta tip your hat to what they did. They did achieve something. They are drawing attention, but when the media is reporting on it with a clear bias that is within your favor, and not just like you said, reporting the event for what it was, like this happened, this many people attended, and this is what they were protesting. No, it's this many people attended because Trump and Elon are taking the economy and are taking rights away from people. And if that's your message, then you are literally part of the movement. The media is part of the message. They're backing this thing. They're not being objective or just reporting what is happening.
Yeah.
So the left is still very much has the backing of big media. And what I find interesting is how many other countries like they got involved. Like suddenly, like they had people in Portugal and I think Germany. I don't know. I may not be correct on that particular country, but there's multiple countries that came up and they put their own little protests together in support of this as well.
Yeah. And I, again, this may just be me being callous, but who the fuck cares? You don't have a dog in this fight. You're mad because
Well,
we cut off your aid. That's all it is. If
understood. I
that's just me being me, though. I mean, I don't get that. Like, I'm not going to go out and march down the streets in downtown Chicago because of, the UK passed a bill that I don't agree with. I don't care. It's not my problem. That's a them problem. I don't understand that mentality of it's like, we don't like what's going on in your country, so we're going to have a rally here. No, again, why?
I completely agree with you, Aaron. I do. And the only reason I'm talking about this as much as I am is because I think we should not dismiss the movement.
Oh no, not at all. But
You know,
and it's
It-
relevant. It's
right. It does raise a bit of concern because even if you had 500,000 people, let's be honest, that's 500,000 people in unison.
yeah.
And I think Trump needs to pay attention. And as much as I like what Elon's doing, I'm going to ask you this. Do you think they need to rein him in, or does he have to rein in his own attitude, like the way he comes across and
I
acts?
I think he needs to. This goes back to, like, when people say things like Elon's autistic. I believe it. He's definitely on that. He's very socially awkward. I don't think
Right.
he does not necessarily have all the normal standardized filters in place, and he gets overly excited. He gets carried away with shit, and he needs to learn when to shut the fuck up. I mean, shutting the fuck
Literally.
up is an extremely underrated talent these days. A lot of people don't realize that sometimes you can be a lot more effective if you can keep your word hole closed for a little while. And as much as I talk, I'm a very verbose person and everybody knows it. I know when to shut the fuck up, and it serves me very well. That's a very useful skill set to have. And more so, that's the other thing, though, is being such a verbose person as myself. If you are going to constantly be running your yap, it actually behooves you to make it where people will kind of disregard some of the shit that's coming out. Instead of trying to say all this inflammatory, like, this is the truth and everyone needs to hear it. Well, sometimes no, everyone does need to hear it. And you need to say a whole bunch of random shit that's going to put them on their back foot before you drop that heavy bomb in there, because then they're either going to, if they're the people you don't want paying attention to it anyway, they're going to disregard it. And if they're the people that need to hear it, they're going to pick it out and go, well, I didn't see that coming. And then it
Yeah.
adds a little more gravitas to it without trying to be this big, like, oh my God, I'm here to make these broad sweeping decisions and everyone needs to hear what I have to say because this is amazing. I mean, it, again, like I said, it's the skill of learning to shut the fuck up. It's sometimes you can say more by saying less, and I don't think he gets that, you know?
He doesn't. I think my issue is more how he carries himself. Like he acts more like a rock star than a person who is actually, I mean, someone of service, right?
Okay.
If you're serving the American people, and claiming to do so, without needing a pat on the back, and you're just doing it because you believe in America, then do so. Don't keep showing up like you're the rock star of the event. You know, it's like
Well, I have a theory about that too. I have
okay,
a lot of theories in case you
yeah,
have.
yeah. Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
I think a huge portion of that, and this is like me extrapolating based on people I know. I mean, not nearly successful at Elon's level, not nearly, they're not making national policy, they're not influencing global movements, but people I know that were kind of like, and for lack of a better way of saying it, without, fuck it, we're Gen X, we do this. People that were kind of losers back in the day, the guy
Yeah.
who get the girl to talk to him, the guys who, like, and I'm saying this as someone who's kind of a fucking nerd myself, but the people who weren't really in a position where people were looking up to them or people were admiring them or people were,
You weren't the
respecting
cool
what
kid, right?
they weren't the cool kid.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, shit changes. We all get older. We all change. All of a sudden, that little quiet guy who couldn't get laid until he was fucking 26, all of a sudden he's doing very well financially. He's in a very solid position. He's not making Elon money, but he's not hurting and he doesn't have any kind of the baggage that some fucking guy who peaked in high school is carrying with him.
Right. Right.
All of a sudden that becomes way more attractive and they don't know how to cope with that level of all of a sudden, hey, people want to pay attention. Beautiful women want to hang out with me. Yeah, it's because you drive a fucking Maybach. But at the same time, it's like, oh, well, I must be awesome now. I'm going to overcompensate by acting the way I thought all those douchebags were acting back when I was nobody. And now you multiply that exponentially by being the richest guy on the fucking planet who's, out there just nailing every hot chick that looks his way because they all go, oh, he's got billions of dollars.
Yeah.
I hate to say this because it makes me sound like I think very poorly of certain people, but I do. So when you get these people, it's like, you know what? If I can get this motherfucker to knock me up, I'm set for life.
Yeah.
And I'm not
What's
saying
he got, like 25 kids now or something?
14.
14.
14 fucking kids. I mean, good for you. I wish I could have been in a position to have more than, just my one kid, not just because I would have liked to, maybe have one more. I mean, I'm not crazy. I want to have my own freedom at some point, but one more would have been nice, but realistically,
Yeah, but it's almost like what Elon's doing is like, I will spread my amazing DNA across the world. It's like he's trying to repopulate the world.
He's got that like hyperactive sense of like, I'm fucking amazing.
Yeah.
I need to share this with the world. There needs to be 19 little me's running around. And I mean, sometimes there's a misfire. I mean,
I think a lot of what's happening, especially with like this protest, for example. I mean, Elon is like on the top of the list. It's not even like just an anti-Trump thing. It's like Elon and
yeah,
Trump.
no, he's the headliner at this point.
Yeah, and so it's like read the room, Elon. Continue to do what you're doing because people do appreciate it. But dude, you need to be a little more respectable in how you carry yourself. And the other thing though, that people are crying over what he's doing, but he has a shelf life. Like next year, it's done. It
Yeah,
was literally just a 2-year agreement, and then it's over.
and
So
if they were smart, they'd just sit back and try and wait it out. Because
yeah, they should
I
wait
don't
it
think
out.
these
But
people are building themselves any kind of support. There's no
no,
groundswell of support for the assholes that are out there firebombing their neighbors' cars.
big contrast, and I'm glad you brought that up because like everybody wanted to say with this hands off protest, mostly peaceful. Look how we acted, nothing happened, we weren't getting out of control. But yet down the street, you're firebombing a Tesla dealership.
Oh no,
You're
they're not
breaking the
us. That's
window.
extremist. You put them up
Yeah.
to.
They're busting the window out of a Tesla owner's car.
Yeah, and
They're
that Tesla owner is probably a Democrat.
exactly, who already bought the car, a couple
The
of years ago or whatever.
Car's paid off, and you just fucked it up. Thank you. I'm definitely going to sign up with your cause that Elon's a piece of shit now.
Yeah, this protest, this current protest, Aaron, I think what we've seen is, they're letting everybody know, look, we can still organize. We could argue whether it was paid for or not. Obviously, they did see people being bussed in. So, how many of these people were actually already in this area is in big question, is definitely to be contested. As you were saying earlier, like you said, there was Chinese tourist companies, really? Like they're bringing people in?
But literal tour lines. And the best part is I wish I could find where the thing something I saw on X. It was a picture of the side of one of the buses, and like the instructions for getting on the bus were in English, not English. Like the
Wow.
stereotypical, like for happy fun time, touch this wire. I mean, like
Wow.
that's or driver is registered in America or something like that. I was like, oh my God, the fucking thing on the side of the bus isn't even in English.
Well, I think they realized their unhinged Tesla protest wasn't working because people were calling them out on their violence and their bullshit. And
Yeah.
so they're like, oh, wait, we got to play nice on this one. Let's show the world what Democrats are and who we really are. But you know what? It's all surface level, man, because they have a history of violent outbreaks, no matter what protest it is. It ends up going wrong. It
Yeah.
really does. I,
And
I don't remember. You could correct it because I really don't remember. When was the last time we had a large scale conservative protest? Can you recall?
no, I really can't.
Yeah, exactly. So look, they can scream, kick, and yell all the fuck they
yeah,
want,
no, I
but
mean, we had a boycott. That's the closest thing I could think of.
that's basically what this is. It's like you guys are just screaming into the ether. You lost. It's over. Wait it out. Do some people have valid concerns? Yes, but at the same time, you're not getting anything fucking done, man. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, that's it's. I mean, like I said, I feel to a certain extent there's a lack of emotional maturity on that side because they're and I keep coming back to this. They behave like children who didn't get their way. You know,
Yeah, they do. Absolutely.
it's I didn't get what I want, so I'm gonna yell and I'm gonna scream and I'm gonna destroy shit and I'm gonna make a giant fuss until you cave and give me what I want. And
Do you think though? Do you think that the Conservative Party, all right, and the Trump administration may have to course correct some things though?
oh,
Do you think they're going?
I
Okay,
don't no, I am not on board with the whole like, hey, you guys are doing great. I mean,
right.
no, there's and again it goes back to things like, there we're seeing a lot of activity, but we're not seeing a lot of accomplishment, which is I mean, yes, there are things happening. There are good things happening. There are landmark things happening. I'm completely on board with the dismantling of the Department of Education. I think that needed to be done. It's a bloated, inefficient bureaucracy. Everybody's, oh, well, teachers aren't going to be able to get. The Department of Education does not employ fucking teachers. They employ
No.
administrators. So don't tell me the teachers aren't going to be able. I mean, and I say this because a lot of people in my family are teachers. That's just a thing people in my family do. I don't know. I mean, I was leaning that direction, but I was looking at being a culinary instructor because I don't know if it's how we're raised or if it's just in us, but I wanted to pass on my knowledge to other people. But a lot of, as somebody who is, I grew up around my mom was working in special education when I was a kid. And, seeing her take her paycheck and go out and buy shit and supplies for her classroom. This it's not, and this was under the Department of Education existed, and they weren't doing a goddamn thing for the local school systems. They were instituting policies and saying this is what you need to do, and here's more administrators making the same salary as 10 teachers.
Yeah. So I'd like you to expand on that too, because that was something we haven't brought up yet, which is another hot topic that literally just happened. Is how this affects the educational system because I know in California, for example, like you have insight on this, so I'd like to hear what you have to say. But from my understanding, most of these districts, the schools are funded at the state level. The additional funds that come from federal funding are added to and above, but honestly are never guaranteed. A lot of these are usually through grants and et cetera, and you have to write proposals for them, and then you have to get accepted to receive them. So what exactly
Federal money is
has
contingent on application. It's contingent
yeah,
on grants. And so it's not anything any state ever can depend on. And
right.
by and wide, even those grants and applications and requests for aid from the federal government are not applied at an individual school level. They are applied district wide to, again, administrative tasks, administrative costs, uh, bringing in more bureaucratic positions that exist to justify their existence.
You're not wrong on that too.
Yeah, and if you look at the data, the median salary of a Department of Education individual is six figures.
Oh, I've seen business services superintendents. They get paid like 150,000 to up to 275,000 a year. You have superintendents getting paid upwards of 200 to 300,000 a year. For what?
Yeah, and they
I
spend.
mean, we're talking about educating
You're
K
not.
through 12. Like,
It's it's
where's
it's
the value come in?
a colossal waste of money. And
Right. So
when you
what
look at it, your day to day schools are funded by like property taxes.
right. So from because you have family in education, so what exactly has been the benefit of the federal Department of Education? I mean, are they just what are they actually doing? Regulating, like setting standards? Or are they
They
even?
don't even regulate, they administer guidelines.
That's it.
That's it. If you want Fed money, you have to do what we say in these guidelines, but you are under no actual obligation to follow them. It's only if you want the carrot, not the stick. It's
Right, right, right.
we think this is what you should be doing if you want money from us. It's not you have to follow these guidelines. It's these are advisories. These are regulations. It's not. I mean, they've been kind of stepping up the like you must do this recently. In recent years, but meanwhile, not a single metric that is of any meaning has advanced since the inception of the Department of Education. We've gone from being world leaders in, mathematics, science, I mean, literacy. We were the most literate planet on the country at one point. Now we have fourth graders that are functionally illiterate and cannot read. And
So who was it really regulating the standards then? It wasn't the federal Department of
no,
Education, right?
the states still set the standards,
Right,
but they were deferring to federal advisement because again,
right,
they
right.
wanted that money.
Hmm.
And that money was not definitely not going to the teachers. It's not going to the classrooms. It's barely going to building maintenance because again, all of those expenses are offset through state and local taxes. So it was going to administrative fees. It was going to paying, secretaries for the state Department of Education to like the undersecretary to the Department of Education in charge of dodgeball pressure regulation. But we don't play
Dodgeball.
dodgeball anymore. You know it's I
That's
mean
good.
there's so many instances of it just being again it's not an actual net positive in any real way other than the fact that it creates jobs that are paid extremely well for doing practically nothing.
So we really literally didn't really need the federal Department of Education.
Not at all.
Because before it was created, it was all managed and regulated by the states anyway.
Yes, and we had
And it
some
was doing
of
fine
the
before
most
then.
well-educated people on the planet at that point. Now, granted, we also that's where a lot of those jokes where it's like, well, yeah, you can't get an education in Arkansas because they can't teach sex ed and farmer education on the same day because the cow gets tired.
Oh,
I mean, it's things like that. The jokes like
oh,
that exist for a reason. But
oh.
on the other side of that coin, like I said, I have never been in a position where I'm like, we need more federal government. The federal government makes things work better. I can't think of an instance where more federal involvement has ever been a net positive. All it is layers of red tape, bureaucracy, and inefficiency, paid for by your and my dime.
Agreed.
And I wish it wasn't the case. I mean, it's going back to when I was a kid, and I probably did a few things that got me on a watch list, um, because I joke about it, but I know it's true. And it's like back then when I had a more juvenile mindset of thinking about things, and I was like, "Oh no, I believe in anarchy. I'm an anarchist. I think everybody should be able to free to do what they want, and we don't need any government at all." And then I realized people are fucking stupid, and none of us have the emotional maturity to be able to function in that kind of society. So we
Yeah.
need a government. But I am a minimalist. I'm a small government. Like, I mean, by today's standards, I'm a small government conservative. I used to say I was a small government liberal because I don't believe in having excessive government regulations, but I also believe that I don't think people should be being told what to do with their lives. That's between them and whatever higher power they believe in or don't believe in, or their community, their friends, their neighbors. I don't give a shit. If you're not going to impact my life, I don't care how you live yours. When you start trying to force your values and your beliefs on me, then you and me got a problem.
I think that's just the way anybody should live their life, though.
Exactly. I mean,
You
to
know?
us, that makes sense. We're
Yeah,
saying professional individuals,
absolutely.
but
Let me ask you this though. Um, but I want to ask you this, Aaron, because we stay in touch here and there, message back and forth, X, etc. But what I want to ask you is because it's been a while since I talked
yeah.
with you. Is what do you think now? Like since things have been progressing more and more under this administration, what do you think's the action that the Trump administration needs to take currently? Because approval ratings, I get it, they've fallen a bit. That's going to happen. Look, change is hard. Not everyone's going to be happy about it.
Going to be
But
growing pains. You
yeah,
can't.
yeah. What do you think should be going on right now? Like, what should they be thinking about, and how should they be approaching things? I'm asking you this honestly because I want to know your opinion. Like, I wonder how you see it.
I see it as it's. I mean, we talked about this before. I was like a begrudging Trump voter this election.
Right. You said that.
I, I mean, I was really leaning hard towards Bill Murray because he's my standard go-to, my write-in. I think Bill Murray would make an amazing president. Um, not
You
that
know what?
I
I'm visualizing that right now, and I can actually see it.
yeah, I mean, that's just me. But but I mean, he made a lot of sweeping statements, many of which I agree with. And like I said, the DOE has always been kind of a pet peeve of mine.
Right.
And to hear like, yeah, you know what, this is a bloated, worthless bureaucracy, and we're going to get rid of it because the kids are getting dumber every fucking year. I mean, he didn't phrase it like that, but that's the long and the short of it. That's the truth. It's schools don't educate, they indoctrinate, and that's a problem. And that is steered in large part out of DC because that's where the indoctrination guidelines come from. And again, they can honestly and legitimately say, well, we're not forcing you to do this. These are our advisements. The fact that you went along with it because you needed that check is entirely up to you. So, and it's like the whole plausible deniability. So I could see that for years. And I was like, if these people need to go. And so, he stuck to that. And he's been trying to fulfill the campaign promises he made, which is a refreshing change of pace in a lot of ways. And I think part of that is, when you're going into the knowledge of something of you don't have to worry about retaining your job after the 4 years because you can't run for a third term. But now that's a whole nother, I could get off on that. Like, and start floating. Well, people are saying maybe I should run for a third term. No, the fuck you should not.
No, no.
No, you're too old. Cut and slash and burn. Go in there with the I don't give a shit because I'm not trying to get reelected attitude that got you in there in the first place. Stick to that.
No, we gotta uphold the Constitution. Got your second term, you're done.
And again, too fucking old. Too fucking old. But
agree. Yeah.
Let JD have the reins after you're done. Because I'm really liking JD Vance. I didn't think I was going to.
I didn't either, but man, does he know how to represent himself. Yeah.
He's carrying himself beautifully. And I did not think those words would be coming out of my mouth.
He's eloquent. He knows how to talk. He knows how to deliver a message. He knows how to act in front of the camera. He knows when
to put that little bit of stank on it.
Yeah, yeah.
God bless him. There's been a few where I'm just like, you know what? I could see myself vote for if he keeps doing this for the next 4 years. I'm gonna be on his side.
So this kind of leads to why I asked this is because we want to see a continuation of conservative control, right? And I agree with you. I think JD would be a great president at this point, just based on how he acts. Like he's a good mix of how the old school president would act publicly while having forward-thinking conservative values, right?
Yeah,
which is cool. Trump is he's his own thing,
yeah, no,
in every way.
One of a kind.
Yeah. But is what Trump is doing now by going scorched earth and just ignoring the fallout, for example, like how is this going to affect JD's chances? Because we got to look forward, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think a huge portion of that depends on because it's kind of like we've been saying over and over again, this change is not going to happen overnight. There are going to be growing pains. You have to start thinking long term, which is one of the things a huge percentage of the population of this country has a problem with. Everybody, and it's like I said, everybody is focused on now with no attention to the past and no thought for the fucking future. They only see their immediate concerns. And that's what the thing I think is actually going to be the biggest problem is a lot of this stuff is going to take long-term thinking to be effective. And unfortunately,
this is a 7 to 10 year adjustment, right?
Yeah, we're talking probably almost a decade before we're going to really start seeing the net positives of what is going to be a very complicated and difficult process to get where we need to be. And I mean, a soft reset's not going to work. That's one of the things that a lot of people don't seem to get. And particularly the people that are yammering for instant results. People are saying, like, we expected everything on day one. Well, that's unfucking realistic. It's
Yeah, that's very
just
unrealistic.
not going to work. So when you have this mindset of, well, this I need it now. Well, no, you don't. You need to understand that what we're doing now lays the groundwork to make a solid, lasting change. Because what we've had for probably most of your and my adult life for the last 3 or 4 decades is back and forth. This party's in control, that party's in control, and it's. I don't remember where I heard the analogy, but it seems very apt to me. Is what we have is we have a big mud puddle, and we got two different kids, and they have a stick, and they keep taking the stick and swirling around the mud puddle for their turn, whether it's 4 years or 8 years. They're in there stirring the stick around. And then the other kid gets his hands on the stick, and then he says, "Well, no, you did that wrong. Well, I'm going to fix it." And he takes the stick and starts swirling the mud puddle around. And at the end of the day, when you take a step back and you look, you still have these two kids, and you still got a big fucking puddle of mud in the middle that you can't discern and make heads or tails of because it's just stirring the mud puddle around. You're not letting the mud dry out. You're not getting back down to bare earth. You're not digging up the dirt and getting to bedrock so you can build something that's going to last. You're stirring the mud around with a stick.
That's a good point. Yeah. I I think the issue is not because I agree with you, Aaron, and I'm just trying to be the antagonist sometimes just to get
I
just to
appreciate
get things flowing.
it's actually really nice to have somebody else be the antagonist. I'm sitting here arguing with myself.
Yeah,
So
but I agree with you. I think the issue because I'm looking long term, like you said, I would like to see Vance get in there. I just don't want to see what's going on hurt Vance's chances. And I'm not saying that what's happening doesn't need to happen because you're right, it does. I just think the hammer approach is making it hard for people to swallow. You know,
yeah, I mean,
that may be what it is. It's just like you
sometimes you
said.
need to, wrap the pill in a piece of bologna so the dog will swallow it.
Exactly. Yeah. And maybe I think that's what the issue is. It's like it's just too sudden. It's just too much. Nope, my way or the highway. This is what's happening. And it needs to be done. I mean, this has gone on for too long. And maybe we're starting to repeat ourselves, but the reality is I don't think people understand this needed to fucking happen. How it's going about? Sure. No one wants to get hit in the head with a sock of marbles. I get it. But at the same time, I mean, it's like we're trying to course correct something that's been going on, like you said, 20, 30 years now. At what point do you not apply the e-brake? I mean, it
Exactly.
gets you have to. So I'm not trying to disagree with you. I just
No,
wanted to know where you're coming from,
I agree. Like I said, I agree with what you're saying. I see what you're saying, and like I said, I think it's unfortunate that we allowed it to get to this point.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is like one of maybe it's an I don't pretend to understand how the people in the actual positions of power are necessarily thinking. I know how I think. I know my way of thinking. I know as like I said, when I was a kid, I was kind of a dork too. I played a lot of RTS real time strategy stuff. I did things that helped. I mean, part of it is because it's a proclivity towards what I enjoy, and the other part is it shaped the way I enjoy things and the way my thought processes work. And sometimes I'm thinking second or third order steps, like maybe if you do this, this is going to happen, but that happening will trigger the result I want. So it's not always about the initial action. And in a lot of ways, a lot of the bigger stuff, like I mean, obviously, I was very vocal about being pro securing the border about for the last 4 years. I've been
I've been saying that for, I mean, I'm with you on that one.
and yeah, now the way Trump goes in there and goes about it, yes, it's very, and I honestly, and I catch flack for this sometimes, but I love Tom Homan. That guy, he's got my sense of humor too. He's got a very dry, just like when you look at things the way I look at things, it's funny, and it's probably funny to him, but he's just no nonsense. Like, well, yeah, no,
I
we can deport families together. Like,
I'm a fan of Tom Holman too. I gotta be honest. And yes, the guy is a no bullshit, doesn't give a fuck type of guy. But you can't argue that everything he has done is not adhering to what the laws are that have been in place all these years.
yeah,
He's just actually
that's the
doing the
thing. He's
job.
actually enforcing the laws. He's
Right.
not breaking any. He's very by the book because he doesn't want there to be an iota of questionable, like, okay, we did this and now we have to undo it because we broke a rule. No, he's like, this is the law. We're going to follow the law, and therefore we are acting righteously because we are doing what we're supposed to, how we're supposed to. And honestly, kudos to him for having better self-control than me, because if I were running the Department of Immigration, I would be going to every single one of these rallies and throwing people into paddy wagons and then worrying about IDing them once we got them processed. I mean,
Yeah.
but I'm white with blonde hair and blue eyes. You're at the protest getting the fucking bus.
Well, the thing too is he's good at what he does, because when people try to push back on Tom and they question him, especially journalists, after he gives his response, he just shuts them down. Like they don't have a comeback. Like there's nothing they can say, because everything he says is like, according to this law, subsection, blah 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 blah, and they just sit there going, "Oh shit, this guy knows what he's talking about," and it's over.
It's like, pump. I'm not getting an emotional response out of this guy. Shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the classic, just walking down the hallway eating an apple while people are yelling at him.
Well, it sounds like what we're both saying is literally like the Trump administration is just this large hammer, and they're just going about things like they're just swinging a wrecking ball, but it's all for the sake of course correction, man.
Yeah,
And it's just
well,
unfortunate that we're just seeing it happen
we're
now, and that's
seeing it
why it's such
happen
a shock.
big and blunt, and it's unfortunate that we got to the point where it took big and blunt to get us there. And like I
Yeah.
said, sometimes I do too. Like I said, I start thinking, second and third order consequences of these actions. I mean, if he hadn't gone in and started swinging this big hammer at, okay, we're shutting this down. Okay, we're doing this. We might not have seen all of these, different district judges saying, well, no, you can't do that. And we're putting a national injunction on your decision. Well, you don't have that authority. You're a district judge. You don't have national authority, appointed or not. And so maybe we wouldn't have been aware that this was an issue and could have been an issue further down the line where, and again, people feel differently about that. But like I said, without these grand sweeping, ridiculous over the top movements, maybe these guys would have sat on their thumbs and waited for a more opportune time where they could do something more under the radar they wouldn't have brought awareness to the potential for this to be a conflict.
Well, it's a good example of some kind of a strange analogy, but it's like that untouched rock in the garden that you kind of just never looked at, and then one day, you have to install a sprinkler, so you lift this rock up and you just see all the garden roaches scatter, like
Yeah,
you never
exactly.
even knew were there.
You didn't know you had bugs, but all of a sudden
Right.
you move that rock and there's like, oh my God.
Like, what's this? Yeah, definitely. Um,
And if you're me, you go, and you drop the rock. Because, I'm a big manly man, but there are certain things that will bring out my screeching inner 9-year-old girl. And spiders and I aren't on friendly terms. I'm
fuck
okay,
spiders,
I'm
man.
okay admitting that. Now, my wife says I'm afraid of them, and it's not that I'm afraid of them. I have an aversion to them.
Oh, dude, you would hate my yard. We have so many black widows out here.
Oh,
Oh, it's
it's
rampant.
not that I hate them as long as they stay out there. No,
Well, luckily for us, they do, but it's like it, it's crazy. I think you would go nuts. I don't know. It
it's
may not
possible.
be your
Like
may not be your area.
my wife, the reason she likes to say I'm terrified of spiders, and I'm really, like I said, I'm not. I just have an aversion to them. Is years and years ago, just a quick story. I mean, real quick story.
I love talking to you, man. It's good. It's
But yeah, so quick story. So years ago, we're cleaning out the window wells at our house, right? My son was maybe 8, give or take.
okay.
7 or 8, around that age. And he wanted to help. I'm like, all right, buddy, you can help me clean out the window wells. Just it's spring, just getting all the dead leaves and shit out of there. And so I gave him my work gloves, and we're pulling the leaves and crap out of one of the window wells. And we have wolf spiders here.
Yeah.
And and I'm reaching down to grab something because it was a branch or something he was having trouble with. I'm like, here, let me get that. And I go to pull it out, and this big old wolf spider runs across my hand and runs out onto like the little trim around the window well. And I'm like, ah, and I wasn't really thinking, but I'm like, oh, Alex has the glove on. Here, use your hand. And I like grabbed his hand and smushed the spider with his hand.
Oh, damn.
Like, that hurt my hand. I'm like, I'm sorry, buddy. You had the glove. And I'm like, are you okay? It's like, no. And I mean, he was fine. I didn't actually hurt him. He was just more like, he used my hand to smush a bug. And so he went and told on me. And so my wife's like, big tough guy's afraid of spiders. I'm like, no, I just didn't want to smush it barehanded, and he had my gloves. You're afraid of spiders. I'm like, no, I just don't like spiders. I'm not afraid of them. I'm
No,
not
I
afraid
get it, man.
a spider's going to take my wallet. I just don't want one running across my hand. And
I'm with you. Hey, stay in your corners, do your thing. You eat bugs,
yeah,
I get it,
exactly.
but stay out of my area.
It's don't touch me. I won't touch you. It's
I hear you,
my
man.
same approach towards pretty much everything. Keep your hands to yourself, and we're good. But it's and in that case, keep your eight legs to yourself, and don't. Ugh, But yeah, that's why I say I have an aversion to spiders, and that's why my wife says I'm scared of them because I used a child's hand to smush one.
While you weren't
I,
thinking, you were just like, ah,
oh, it was reactive. It was not
bare
like,
hand. I
yeah,
need
I was
glove.
like, I need a glove, and honestly, his hand could have not been in the glove, and I still would have grabbed the glove and smushed the spider.
Yeah,
And it was just his hand happened to be in the glove, and I don't care. I'm not a bad parent. I didn't hurt my child. I hurt his feelings. I didn't hurt him. He's like,
yeah.
he took me, he used our hand to smush a bug. And this is the same kid who, like, later on when he grew up at one point, knowing his mother is petrified of snakes, brought home
Hmm.
35 ball pythons at one point. So,
What?
yeah, it was a,
Well, there's a story.
uh, well, it's a fun story. Now my son, I love my son dearly. He's a wonderful human being. He's a good man at this point. I'm proud of the man he's become. When he was a teenager, he's always been a hustler. Like, so you fast forward to when he's like a teenager, and he got a job like most of us do, and he started realizing when I made him start paying for shit, he realized how much paying for stuff sucks,
Yeah.
and subsequently decided he needed to make more money. I can't knock him. He's got a fantastic work ethic. He works his ass off, but he also is a big fan of working smarter, not harder. So if he sees an opportunity to make some money, he will take it. I mean, I'm pretty convinced he actually does this stuff for fun now. Like him and his fiance go,
Really?
oh
For
yeah,
the challenge?
yeah, they go to garage sales and estate sales on the weekends, and I'm like,
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
that what you and then he buys shit and flips it like almost instantly. I mean, the kid
Hey, man, that's a thing.
he has a talent. I mean,
Yeah.
like he'll send me like a text message with like last summer he sent me one of like a freaking engine block he found at some estate sale, and he's like, hey, you got any interest in this? I'm like, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? LS swap your mom's Focus, because it was literally a Ford like a 305 small block V8 racing engine
Oh, wow.
with the headers, the cams, the shafts, everything. I mean, it was this guy died and like never got around to building his dream car or whatever, and it was on an engine stand in the corner of the garage, and the kids had no idea what they were worth. They were asking like $250 for it. I'm like, dude, that's like a
What?
$1,000 engine.
Wow.
I'm like, I got nowhere to put it, but if you buy it, you can definitely flip it and make money. He goes, oh yeah, I know. I just thought you might. I'm like, what am I gonna do with a Ford racing engine?
I got into flipping things for a little bit. Back when that was a big, a few years back when the craze was huge.
Oh yeah, I mean,
And I did okay with it, but the reality set in. It's like to make this a living, it is beyond a full-time job, man.
oh yeah, without a
Because
doubt.
it's not just finding the stuff, it's having a space to like spread everything out, go through it, all the junk you find too,
Clean
like
it
especially when
up.
you're buying lockers.
Oh yeah,
Oh man.
I did that. I did that once. I bought one locker, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not doing this shit no more because I mean, I don't have a retail space. I don't have. I was like, I'm selling shit on Facebook Marketplace. I'm not.
Right.
know. Fortunately, we do have a decent amount of storage space where I was like, I mean, like occasionally I'll still buy like a little mixed lot, like a pallet or something,
Yeah, yeah.
like because there's a local online auction where their warehouse is like 10 minutes from my house, so it's like I
But
don't have to
that's
pay for
more
shipping. I can go pick it up. And it's like I'll buy, here's a pallet of random electronics, and if I can get it for like $50 or something stupid.
right. But that's a case of you kind of more or less know what's on the pallet versus like in a locker. You kind of get a few
Yeah,
minutes to look and
yeah, no, doing the lockers. So I'm like when they were doing storage wars and all that stuff. Yeah,
right, right.
yeah, I briefly entertained the idea of like, hey, this could be a fun little side hustle. No, no, the fuck it cannot.
No, it's a grind, man.
You either commit or don't do it.
I know a few people that do it and they got successful at it, but I'm telling you, it's like the
It's
notion of I don't want a 9 to 5. I'm gonna do what I want, and you get into something like that, like you're
You're
beyond nine
working
to five.
14 hours a day.
Oh yeah, man,
Oh,
absolutely.
hard pass.
But at least I guess you can say you're your own boss, right? So
Yeah,
with
but yeah, no, it's not for. But like I said, my biggest thing too is like all the stuff I buy. Like my biggest problem is I buy shit and then well, you know what? I think I'm gonna keep this. Like, like 2/3 of my podcasting setup, came from that online auction.
really,
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I always joke about it. It's like, when I was first getting into, when the COVID podcast boom, and I was talking to other independent attempters, and we're talking about, oh yeah, well, if I'd have known, how much work it was getting set up, and I was talking to people that they're like, I spent all this money to buy this, that, and the other. I'm going to be super serious about it. And literally none of the people who I talked to who were like balls deep in how much stuff they bought, like, I bought this camera and it's got this, and it's like none of those shows are still active, which in a
yeah,
lot of ways is a pity, and I feel for them. But at the same time, I'm like, that's why I eased myself into it. And honestly, my wife eased me into it more than I eased myself into it, because I think she was tired of having to listen to me talk all the time, and because I was laid off, and so she got me a microphone for my birthday.
yeah. She's like, here, talking to this.
She's like, here, you've been talking about a podcast since 2014. Maybe you should try that.
So you kind of just you eased into it. You
Yeah.
bought some stuff online auctions. So you didn't come out of pocket too
This
hard.
right here is my first. This is, it's a little, it's gaudy as shit when you take the art off of it. It's a like $40 mic, and it came with a sound card and an adapter thing to plug into a computer. I had a Chromebook because I was back in school, so I could run off of my Chromebook to do my recording, and so I didn't have to buy a new computer for that. She literally bought me the microphone for my birthday, and it came with the boom arm too, and and uh, and I started recording with that. And then I was looking at my kid, and I would occasionally buy stuff off of this online auction site, because, like I said, sometimes it was just because we wanted something, and that was the cheapest way to get it. Because the site's primarily like store returns and stuff like that. You get a lot of Amazon returns and things like that.
Yeah, but I mean, finding a you can't fault yourself for wanting to find a good deal on something.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that website since then has gotten so much more popular that it's so much harder to get a good deal on shit now.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
it used to be, like, I mean, like, I got a one of the water coolers you put a 5-gallon jug on. It does hot and cold, and it works great and does everything. I paid $16 for it. Um,
Damn.
yeah, exactly. My desktop that I use now, it's an older desktop. Thing's like 6 years old at this point. Still works fine for what I need it for. But it's got a terabyte solid state drive, maxed out the RAM that it can hold. It's a quad core processor. It's an i5 Intel chip. I mean, it's not super fancy, but it does the job I need it to do.
It's plenty, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I paid $75 for that.
Jesus, I
I
need your deals. I need you to shop for me.
Yeah, I mean, I've got 4 monitors here. Actually, I've gone through 6 monitors since I started the show, because one of them died and I replaced that one. One of them I broke because when I got this boom arm that I have my current mic on, I was moving the boom arm that came with my cheap mic, and I forgot it's spring loaded. So when I took it out of the stand, the arm shot up and smacked.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
it sucked too, because it was my favorite monitor. It was like
Oh,
the
that
biggest one I
sucks.
had, and it was a really beautiful monitor. But I paid like $6 for that monitor, so I was like, I'll just get another one. Um,
Jesus.
yeah,
Hey,
uh, yeah.
I gotta
I got
I
my
gotta
Rock
ask you this.
free, so
Well, check this out. Um, since you brought up podcasting in this era, I want to have this conversation kind of maybe we can end on this because okay, you made a point as to how many people got into this podcasting space like during the COVID era, and a lot of them didn't last. And I have there's a I have something I want to ask you on this, but firstly, why do you think a lot of these people didn't stick to it or didn't last in it?
they went back to work.
Okay, fair.
I think that was a big factor of it. A lot of people, I think, were kind of expecting. I think a lot of us didn't know how much work it was when we got into it. That's
Yeah,
the first. I mean, for anybody who just listens to these things and never actually, because I mean, like, I think a huge portion of my listeners are actually also independent podcaster types. I attract a certain type, I think. But mean, for the people who don't do this, a lot of work goes in the background if you're going to put out anything that's actually worth listening to. Between
Agreed.
editing, I mean, people that God bless people that script their episodes. I can't do it.
I don't do it.
If I can't. I mean, I tried a couple of times. It came off so stilted and mechanical and unnatural. I couldn't roll with it. Although
What
I did do a couple of voice acting type things for a different show
oh, that's cool.
where he asked me to do some like, hey, I'm going to send you a script. Would you read this for me? And being my own worst critic, I sent him like 4 different takes. Like, pick the one you think sounds the best. And the one he wound up using is the one where I only kind of used I used the script more as a guideline and kind of improvised some extra dialogue. That one felt more natural, so that's the one I wanted going into.
I don't script the shows either. The one I do with my brother, we don't script any of it. That's all off the cuff. Like we're bullshitting in real time. We're just going for it. The only thing I will do or he will do even on that show we do together, but even on mine, is I will sometimes sit down and put bullet points together that I can go just so I remember to hit certain topics.
Yeah,
But
I do that sometimes too.
I'm not reading a script. It's like I
Yeah,
look at
exactly. It's not written out. It's like, I have like an office document and there's just bullet points. Pelosi got hit with a hammer, and that will,
yeah.
or
So this leads me to this because there's been I don't know if you pay attention to it, but there's been a lot of big media personalities entering our space, journalists, etc. And you got like Chris Cuomo here talking shit about podcasters like you and me every day. He has his own podcast where he literally talks shit about other podcasters, like these big head can guys. They're not real journalists. They're just opinion people. They're regurgitating this and this. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. And he's like always bashing guys like you and me and people that are way bigger than us. And it's like we do the work. Like I'll research, I'll go down rabbit holes, man, and present real information with real data to back it up. And I've heard you make your points that are like spot on. And this guy is literally criticizing people like us for doing what we do while at the same time on his own fucking show
oh, yeah, no,
doing the same fucking thing, just giving opinions. He's a talking head. He's a teleprompter reader.
and he's an elitist douche nozzle too, because
Yeah,
he's part of that movement from before mainstream media started dying. So he somehow thinks he's more valid than you or me doing the exact same thing on a shoestring budget without anybody backing us.
absolutely.
And and I don't think he necessarily has self-awareness for this to be true, but I'm going to say it anyway because it makes me feel better. He's probably a little bit jealous because you and I aren't beholden to anybody. We can
You're
say
right. We aren't.
whatever the hell we want.
Right.
He's got to, I mean, even if he tries to paint himself as I'm an opinionated, self-righteous prick, he still answers to whoever's signing his checks. And so
Mhm. True.
they're going to tell him, look, this is what you need to say. These guys are a threat to our industry. You need to badmouth them. I mean, I'm not saying he's bad mouthing us because he's being told to. I think he's probably a prick and believes it.
He's just a fucking asshole. Fuck him.
I, he's another one that's on my list of people I would fight if they had the balls to take up my challenge. I've thrown it out there a couple of times where I'm like, look, I will fight anybody, and I'm fat, I'm middle-aged, I'm out of shape, I haven't put on a pair of gloves in 15 years, which is not entirely true. I do have a pair of bag gloves. That doesn't count. I have not fought. I have not trained in years. And any one of these people, I will give you 3 minutes in a ring with a ref, and you're all cowards.
Yeah. Well, I hate his attitude, and I'm not going to I'm not just going to narrow in on him, but there's too many of
There's a
people
lot.
like him coming into the podcast space and trying to delegitimize us, like we're nobodies, like we don't have anything to say and we don't do the work.
Have a valid opinion because we're not corporately backed. We're not industry professionals, so what we have to say must be invalid.
Well, and most of these guys, and I'm just going to say this because I'm glad that I'm saying this and we're talking about this because this needs to be said and people need to hear it. Most of these people like the Chris Cuomos and these other journalists that are coming in that were like CNN, MSNBC journalists, whatever. They haven't themselves been real journalists in eons. They're all talking heads. They're teleprompter readers. They are opinion people. And they're going to try to criticize people who have a genuine concern for what's going on and trying to do the actual research and the work to present our perspective. And we're the bad people, right? We're not professional. We're not legitimate. And it's like, I say, fuck that. Fuck you and fuck your opinion, man.
Exactly.
And what I don't like is they're crowding us.
Independent sources.
Yeah, and what I don't like, Aaron, is they're crowding us out because they have this money that keeps putting themselves on the front page of every fucking podcast app that you use, that our discovery is just starting to go down because we just can't compete with it.
Oh yeah, no, it's they're definitely saturating the market. And a lot of people I'm saying this now, I'm going to start sounding elitist here, but a lot of people don't know that podcasts have been around for like a decade. You know, this is not a new thing. It gained a
No, it
lot
isn't.
of popularity and new traction, and it gained a lot of visibility, particularly when, like, Rogan's came along and is like, you know, this is a thing, nerds have been doing in their basements since the fucking, like 2011, I think, or 2010, I think was like the
I think
first.
it's somewhere around there,
Yeah, I mean, like I
somewhere
said,
between 2010,
literally over a
2012.
decade, you know?
Yeah, somewhere in
And-
there.
yeah, because I mean, it came up actually on my Facebook memories a couple of weeks ago. A post I made in 2014 talking about, I think I might start a podcast.
Damn.
And it was like, would anybody have any interest in hearing this? Here's a few names I was thinking about. And I had like four, it was like a poll, and there were like four names on there. And one of them was actually really close to I had to say it. One of them was, and that was the one that got the most votes. It said it needed to be said. And I was like, ironic, I guess, but
Well, and you wanted this since 2014. My only regret is not entering the space earlier. Like this
well,
is literally my second year doing this, and
like,
I
I
think
wish I would have done it when I started thinking about it and not waited until 2020.
the same. I just never made time for it, and so I think I've done fairly well for the time I've been doing it.
I think so.
And
I enjoy your show.
thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Um, but I also hate seeing these old media people come in and try to crowd us out now. When we've been putting the work in all this whole time, and people like you and me, we don't talk out of our ass. We
Yeah,
really don't.
it's
And
it's
somehow they're more valid, like you said, because they were on CNN, a failing fucking
yeah, that's
network.
that I actually, again, and this is one of those, definitely I'm a nobody punching up. But those are like the social media posts I see, and I do it on X primarily. That's where my primary talking shit to people account is. It's like,
Right.
I'm like most people our age. Instagram is where I go for, stupid reels and laugh. Facebook is where I talk to family members that won't come into the modern age and get off of that platform. And
I hear you.
X is where I go talk shit. And it was actually kind of funny because I forgot I have a personal X account. Like
You do.
I have one. It has been in. It never gets any attention because I'm always on the podcast account.
Right.
I literally forgot it exists up until about 6 months ago, and
That's funny.
I logged into it, and it's like, I set the account up in 2013 when it was still Twitter, and because it's like, because it has that little, like, the day the account, or year it was started or whatever on there.
Right. Right.
And I was like, I set this up in 2013. I forgot. And
Dang.
like, it's got like a profile picture of me from 2013. I'm like, damn, look at me. My beard was actually black back in the day. Jesus.
Like, I need to update this.
Yeah. But I leave it alone because I think it's funny. I'm just like, and it was kind of funny because it was like following like 25 accounts, and it like had like it has like 150 followers, and every single one of them is like a deactivated bot account. There's not
That's
a
funny.
follower on that account that's actually a human being, except for a few people. I have since finding that account again. I've started going back when I remember it's there, and like, oh wait, I got more. Like, I've been adding podcasts and stuff I follow, and a few accounts that do giveaways when I'm like, I want an extra entry, so I'm going to use both accounts.
I I think that's so crazy because recently with X, like I've honestly been ignoring a lot of social media. I haven't been as active as I used to just because I got tired of arguing with people.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
I'm at the point that when I'm bored, I'll start engaging people just for the sake of doing it. Like maybe I might be becoming a bit of a troll, but at the same time, like there's
Therapeutic.
some, yeah, there's some statements, especially on threads. You on threads? Oh my God,
Yeah,
that's
no,
the best.
I stayed off of Threads primarily because I have the feeling if I go on there, I'm going to get kicked off.
Well, that's where I usually do my arguments because it's just I can't help myself. It's just too fun. So I have to.
I might have
But
to look into it.
but the thing is I've noticed is like was you were talking about the social media thing because and that's relevant because a lot of people saying like, oh, we're the media now, this and this, and going back to the podcasting, we're talking about, you started this a while back, you're still in it, I'm in it. A lot of people like Whiskey Hill's still in it. They started during the COVID time as well, and I applaud anybody who's still doing this. But I'll be damned if I'm going to let these legacy media assholes come in and try to crowd us out
Well, yeah,
and
no,
try
they
to
don't
make us
come into
seem like,
our house.
yeah, they're trying to make it seem like we're not relevant and our voices don't matter. And it's like, no, you guys are the ones that are trying to stay relevant and grasp a little bit of control that you used to have. You don't have it anymore. And
Yeah.
they just don't know how to accept
Honestly,
that.
I love seeing them fail. I really do. It makes
Right.
it tickles the cockles of my coal black heart.
Oh,
Um,
talk
where
about failure,
like
Aaron. Michelle Obama's podcast.
Michelle Obama. Oh,
Yeah.
I love watching them fail. It made me like to my core when the first numbers started posting for Michelle Obama's podcast, like inaugural episode,
Yeah.
and a lot of people are like, oh well, she got 100,000 streams. I'm like, this is one of the most name recognized individuals on the planet,
Yes.
and they in like their first week, her and her brother bullshitting on Mike got 100,000 downloads or whatever it was in that initial period they were talking about. And I'm like, that is nothing. Or no, it wasn't even that much. I think it was 20,000. It was like some number that like for you or me, it would be like, holy shit, I said something right. But
That's abysmal for
that,
someone of her stature.
yeah, was somebody of that stature to underperform to that degree had to be a kick in the balls. And it's just it's rough. And
Yeah.
it like I said, it warms my heart. Or when Don Lemon's like, "Here, I'm gonna go start my own thing," and nobody fucking cared.
I
And
like literally forgot about Don Lemon until you just mentioned him.
yeah, well, I the only reason he pops up in my head is because I saw something about is again it was one of those like, hey, remember this? And it was when I some smart ass remark I made on his book when he was out handing out copies of his book in New York or something, and people were like, I don't want this shit. And I was just like, that made me happy when it happened, and seeing it pop up in my like, hey, last year you said this, and I'm like, fuck that guy.
That's
So,
great.
you know,
Well,
and
fuck, man.
yeah,
You and I need to keep this going. We need to keep doing this, and others like us need to keep doing this. And I hope that we all can hold out and just hang on. And I'm of the mind if all of our shows collectively become as big as a Joe Rogan, great. But I
yeah.
think it's important to keep delivering the message, keep delivering the um the analysis that we give based on what's going on in the world because you need another opinion out there. You need another way to look at things. And I don't want to I would hate to see big media come back, rear its ugly head, and just become the sole voice of America or of any kind of information. And,
Oh
and
yeah.
that will just set us back so much.
I mean, yeah, there's so many reasons that would be a bad thing.
Agreed, man.